This is the Wednesday, January 31st, 2018 morning session of the Portland City Council. Carla, please call the roll.
Fritz.
Here.
Fish.
Here.
Saltzman.
Here.
Udaley. Here. Wheeler.
Here. The purpose of council meetings is to do the city's business, including hearing from the community on items of concern. In order for us to hear from everyone and give due consideration to matters before the council, we must all endeavor to preserve the order and decorum of these meetings. To make sure the process is clear for everyone, I want to review some of the basic guidelines, which I hope will make everybody feel comfortable, welcome, respected, and safe at the meeting, and to also ensure that decorum is maintained for all of us. There are two opportunities for public participation. First, we have an opportunity for people to sign up for communication to briefly speak about any subjects they wish to address. These items must be scheduled in advance with the clerk's office. Second, people may sign up for public testimony on the first readings of resolutions and ordinances. If you sign up, your testimony must address the matter being considered at the time. Please state your name for the record. We do not need your address. If you're a lobbyist, please disclose that. And if you're here representing an organization, please identify the organization. Individuals have 3 minutes to testify unless otherwise stated. When you have 30 seconds left, the yellow light is going to light up, and when your time is done, the red light will come on. Conduct that disrupts the meeting, for example, shouting or interrupting others' testimony or interrupting during council deliberations, is not allowed. People who disrupt the meeting face ejection from the meeting. If there is a disruption, I will issue a warning. If there's any further disruption, anyone who is disrupting the meeting will be subject to ejection for the remainder of the meeting. Anyone who fails to leave the meeting after being ejected will be subject to arrest for trespass. If folks would like to show their support for something, a simple thumbs up is good. If you don't like something, a thumbs down works as well. Please no shouting out. Thank you, and let's get started, Carla, with council communications. First item, please.
Item number 85, request of Bridget Blackburn to address council regarding the impact of crime and vandalism has on business, employees, and clients in the Central East Side neighborhood.
So, Carla, and I'll ask this of the presenters, as I look at this, are you all part of a group? Would you like to come up together, or would you like to come up individually? It's your call.
We can come up together.
Very good. Why don't you read all five, please, Carla?
86, request of Brent Perry on behalf of the Central East Side Industrial District to address council regarding increase in crime and vandalism in the Buckman neighborhood. 87, request of Brooke Kabadik to address council regarding increase in crime in the Central East Side neighborhood. 88, request of Tamara Goldsmith to address council regarding help for businesses in the Central East Side neighborhood with vandalism, mental health resources, and homelessness. And 89, request of Emma Palat to address council regarding the impact rising crime and vandalism has on businesses, employees, clients, and community in the Central East Side.
Very good. And a reminder, name for the record, when the light comes on, the red light, your time is up. Thank you.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Bridget Blackburn. I'm the co-owner of Cargo. We're a 20-year-old independent business that relocated into the Central East Side about 3.5 years ago. When we moved into the neighborhood, we formed a small, informal group of businesses with goals to promote our businesses and create community standards. 3 years later, we're now a part of the Merchants and Makels Committee, which is a part of the Central East Side Industrial Council. We work frequently with the city's crime prevention specialists and have formed a robust Business Watch program with numerous trainings led mostly by Mark Wells and Terry Papino. We hold regular quarterly district cleanups in the district. We partner with Solve, the City of Portland's Graffiti Abatement Task Force, and your Pick It Up Portland initiative. We have also started regular cleanups with Central City Concerns Clean Start program, and we have funded, in part with grants through Venture Portland, both the first ever district-wide map and the new CEIC website. We have seen a spike in property damage, vandalism, deterrence to our customers coming to the area because of smash and grabs in cars. Rather than go through a list of all of those specific stories and hardships, I'd like to speak to a few possible challenges that I think we might be able to come up with a partnership to come to some solutions to. One is we need a much more efficient way to work across jurisdictions. We, for instance, when we have to clean up garbage or graffiti from our area, we have to identify ownership and get permission from all kinds of groups like ODOT, the Multnomah County, PBOT for parking meters, BES for bioswales, Union Pacific runs through our district, and then City of Portland and private landowners as well. We have a short list of requests that we would like to make from each of those departments that would result in much quicker response so that we could have higher cleaning response and that would eventually minimize the issues we're seeing on the streets. Our time is too valuable as volunteers to be caught in the red tape, and we know the mayor's office has seen some of these issues, especially in working with departments like ODOT. Finally, we also need to come up with a way to address the lack of public restrooms. During my time over the last 3 years leading cleanups with Solve, I've learned a lot about public safety and keeping our volunteers safe from the contamination of human waste. In the Central East Side, we're very connected to the river and its health. From 2nd Avenue down, the catchment flows right into the river. We need innovation around this problem, and one idea might be to get actual camp toilets, the same kind of thing that you're using when you're rafting on the rivers in Oregon, and have something like a waste collection site available for them. This solution, in my experience as a camper, costs $18, and I can go to a waste collection site. We'd like to start a discussion with you around solutions like this.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Not sure who would like to go next.
Me? Okay. Go ahead. Good morning. My name is Tamara Goldsmith. I've been a business owner of a retail shop in the Central East Side for the past 12 years. In recent years, we've faced incredible new challenges. Break-ins are occurring much more frequently, vandalism is rampant, and shoplifting is now a regular occurrence. Drug paraphernalia, garbage, urine, and feces are something shop owners have to clean up on their doorsteps on a regular basis. We're in regular contact with people exhibiting belligerent and erratic behavior who appear to be either in opiate withdrawal or experiencing a mental health crisis. Not only am I concerned for the safety of myself and my staff, but also for my customers and our community at large. Historically, we've relied on the calling of 911 for help, but the response time is slow and reporting process is confusing and generally inadequate in addressing the roots of our bigger problems. About 2 years ago, frustrated by these circumstances, I started a closed Facebook group called PDX Theft Watch. As an online community of small business retailers and now 600 members strong, we provide a support network to one another while addressing security and safety concerns. We circulate immediate warnings, ideas, stories, surveillance photos, and descriptions of perpetrators to one another. We encourage others to file police reports, which helps build interconnected cases using shared information. The biggest issues we have are with known chronic thieves and people who repeatedly engage in violent behavior or enjoy creating a public nuisance. What I would ask from the city is for some sort of a similarly coordinated method of communicating the issues business owners have with an appointed liaison and local law enforcement. We need a single representative at the PPD who we can rely on to return our calls, help us build cases against known chronic shoplifters, and help us create a network of better communication about incidents involving repeat offenders. Having a single appointed official to connect with would eliminate the confusion we often have when trying to link multiple case numbers against a single chronic shoplifter. Our Facebook group has proven to be an incredible resource, but what it lacks is the experience, guidance, and database of the PPD. If we can utilize technology to communicate better through some sort of online system that effectively circulates safety and security information and provides a simple platform to connect the business community with law enforcement, I think that would give us all hope. A few more ideas that other Theft Watch group members have suggested online. Number 1, public bathrooms in and around downtown and the Central East Side. Number 2, more security foot patrols day and night in high-traffic shopping areas. 3, more public campaigns and education about the availability of social services and programs like LEAD, Central City Concern, and Outside In. 4, funding and approval of new programs like Safer Spaces, which seeks to mitigate drug-related issues by providing a supervised facility for users to use in private, giving users access to immediate treatment options as a humane alternative to incarceration or overdose. 5, more direct access to addiction and mental health services, not restricted only to PPD referrals. 6, addressing the housing crisis with taxation of corporations and the wealthy to provide more emergency shelters, supportive transitional housing, and subsidized affordable housing. 7, initiatives could be funded by increasing the property taxes on vacant commercial space. When a landlord leaves a building vacant, consider increasing their tax rate. I have one more.
Go
Okay.
your last sentence.
Consider
Sure.
increasing the punishments of repeat offenders, the frustration of being a victim of violent acts of aggression, theft, and vandalism, only to have assailants re-released the same day is unacceptable. Really appreciate your time and your service. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Do you want to go ahead? Sure.
Hi, my name is Brooke Cabada. Thank you for allowing me this time to speak.
You turn that microphone on.
Thanks,
I
Carl.
manage-
Not super close, just on, yeah.
I manage the Logos Building at 529 Southeast Grand. We're in the heart of the Central East Side. The Logos is a mixed-use building with 3 restaurants on the ground floor. My Father's Place restaurant, which has been there 40 years, Slow Bar 15, and Side Door 12. We're not new to the neighborhood. We're across the street from City Team Ministries, and we share a wall with the Columbia Shelter. City Team Ministries and our building have coexisted just fine for over 20 years. We've advocated for transition projects to remain in the Schleifer building as long as possible. With that said, over the last 2 years, and this last one in particular, we've experienced a level of increased crime that is tremendously affecting our businesses and the safety of our employees and our patrons. Over the last year, we've installed a door entry system at the Logos so that our main entrance is locked at all times. My Father's Place has hired night security. U.S. Bank has installed gates around their parking lots and has hired a full-time security guard inside their branch. The Shell gas station now has a night security patrol, and both the Barber Block and City Team Ministries have installed metal gates around their doors. All of this in the last year. Regular patrons of My Father's Place no longer come because they have been harassed time and time again and don't feel it's safe. Employees of the restaurant have been threatened on numerous occasions, and one was assaulted bad enough that he was knocked out and taken to the ER where he was treated for a concussion and stitches. Windows smashed, graffiti, sidewalks defecated, urinated on, needles found, fires set on street corners, drug deals, shootings, assaults. I mean, I could go on for hours about specific examples. Instead, I took photos to document the ongoing issues that we're dealing with around our building. Please take the time to go through each one of these photos and the wording underneath it. It's really hard to capture these on photos. I'm only at our building a few hours a day, and most of that's in my office, so what you're seeing is just a tiny snapshot of what's happening all day, every day around our building. We are losing business because of crime. On numerous occasions, the police officers responding to our calls have told me that they normally work as specialty unit like drug enforcement, and this is not their area of expertise. We are asking you, the city, for a public safety action committee in the Central East Side. We really need this. We're asking you, the city, for a district officer that knows us, knows our community and its challenges. We need this. We are asking the city to allow the police to enforce laws that are already set in place. For example, Code 14A.50.010, no alcohol consumption on sidewalks, or .020, prohibits camping on public right-of-ways, or .030 and 035, leaving sidewalks clear for pedestrians and wheelchairs. I don't know why these aren't being enforced already. We've lost long-term staff, we've lost long-term customers, people that know the neighborhood but no longer feel it's safe. We need your help, and I invite you on the first sunny day of spring to come have lunch outside at Slow Bar to see why. I would also like to know who we can follow up with at the city regarding the Public Safety Action Committee and a district officer. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Brent Perry, president of Bremick Construction. We moved into the Central East Side in 2010. I don't know that I could say it much better than what these 3 ladies have said, so I will just reiterate the same story. Central East Side is a very important part of the city of Portland. It is the next growth area. I think everybody sitting here would acknowledge that. Let's treat it that way. Let's start enforcing the basic laws to make it a safe place for people to want to come to work. That's all.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate Merrill. I'm with the Central East Side Industrial Council, and Emma Paulette couldn't come because of a family emergency, so I'd like to request permission to...
I will allow it in this circumstance.
Thank you. I want to start off by saying that we really appreciate the guidance that the city has given us recently in the process of setting up an ESD, and also Venture Portland, who gave us a grant to pursue this endeavor. This is a major volunteer and staff effort with over 300 signatures for us to get. So this is, we hope to achieve this by the end of spring and be here to talk to you about that then. We would love to continue partnering with the city and finding solution to these livability issues. And I just have to say that ONI has been invaluable in this. The graffiti abatement, crime prevention have been there when we need them. And so I really want you to consider really supporting these programs and even expanding them and having a communications budget to let everybody in the city know about these resources. It's amazing. Also, we'd love to have community policing. We did have a CPAC committee, which I think was kind of what you talked about. I recently have been getting business owners in some problem areas together with police to talk about these issues, and it's very cathartic for the business owners, and it also helps them understand how to report things and what's going on with our police system. So I would like to really encourage more of that interaction with the police and business owners. I also, as we start in ESD, we don't want to be pushing this out into the neighborhoods, all the problems. And so we would love to work with you to find ways to empower other neighborhoods to be able to move ahead on these livability issues. And one great example was a grant that we were able to get.
Excuse me, this is a disruption in violation of council rules. I will remind you, if you disrupt the meeting, you will be asked to leave. Continue, please.
Yeah, so one great example was a grant that the city was able to give us to have Central City Concern come in with the Clean Start program in partnership with Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods. That was a great pilot, and we've been able to expand it. So starting February 1st, we'll have Central City Concern going throughout the Central East Side, thanks to funds through our Transportation and Parking Advisory Committee, which is a great partnership with PBOT. So with that said, thank you so much for your support, and let's keep working together.
Very, very good. And does that cover all 5 of you?
Yes.
Thank you for your testimony. I appreciate it, and I'm compelled to say something. And this is not a counter to what you are saying. I just feel compelled to say something on this subject because it weighs heavily on me, and it weighs heavily on this community. I just got back from the U.S. Conference of Mayors this past weekend. And I convened the West Coast mayors, and we added Alaska and Hawaii to the mix as well, because this is an issue that has filtered up not only as an important issue, it has become the issue. And I want to, first of all, just say the city of Portland is not the only city experiencing this issue. And while things are certainly dire here, and I do not want to in any way suggest that this is not a serious situation. It is a very serious situation. It's actually worse in other areas. But I want people to be aware of what is happening here. There are large trends that the city of Portland does not control at work here. The first is the economy. We are seeing a rapid concentration of wealth. That means people at the lower end of the economic spectrum are being the hardest hit. And at the exact same time, what's happening is the cost of housing is becoming increasingly affordable for lots of people. We have the ability to control that to a certain degree at the local level. That's what we're doing with the 2035 plan. I hope people will continue to support height and 2035 plan, thank you, height and density in the central core so we can have workforce and lower income housing. The second trend is opioid and heroin addiction. And again, this is a national issue, and it is filtering down, and we are seeing it here at the local level. We have to go upstream to be able to effectively address these issues. Third and finally, you're seeing more mental health issues here. This nation has not been successful at addressing community-based mental health services. There are a lot of good providers here, but there's so much more that we can do. So I just want to continue to have people to focus upstream. Now, we have a responsibility here to do what we can do with the tools that we have at our disposal. And I want to assure you that my administration is working very, very hard on this. We have been addressing livability issues, so public health issues, environmental issues. I remind you that that is in violation of council rules. Please do not do that again. We have increased our police presence. We have increased park ranger presence. We've increased funding for trash collection, biohazard collection, and other issues. We have worked with private sector and nonprofit partners to help encourage volunteers to participate, both supporting the homeless population and addressing some of the livability issues that come with it. So what I'm asking us all to do is let's put our collective energy, no matter where we, excuse me, you are in violation of council rules and you have been asked.
All of our livability issues into Village of Hope right now. In fact, does anybody here need a blanket to take people living on the streets? I'd like to know if anybody here needs a blanket. I've got a blanket for people.
Excuse me for one moment. We're in recess. We'll be right back. We're in recess.
Okay.
session. Carla, have any items been pulled from the consent agenda?
I have no pulls, but we need 4 people.
That's true.
For the consent agenda?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, because it's.
That's okay. Let's call Venture Portland up, and as soon as Dan gets here, we'll adopt it.
Poor Amanda.
Yeah.
We'll just wait a minute.
Hey, Heather, why don't you and your team come forward so that you're ready to go, because you're the next time certain. Make sure the PowerPoint's working and everything you need. We're sending the Sergeant at Arms out to get Dan Salzman.
Here he comes.
Okay.
Carla, please call the roll on the consent agenda.
Nothing's been pulled.
Fritz. Fish.
Aye?
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. The consent agenda has been adopted. Item 90, please.
Item 90, Venture Portland Annual Report to Council.
Commissioner
Mayor and
Fish.
colleagues.
For the record, I'd like to vote yes on the consent agenda.
Okay.
And one more yes on the consent.
Mayor and colleagues, as council liaison to Venture Portland, I'm proud to welcome today Heather Hale, Executive Director of Venture Portland, Matthew Macetic, President of the Venture Portland Board and owner of Red Castle Games on Southeast Foster, Brad Faulkner, Dane Fredericks, and Calvin Huff, who are district organizers for Venture Portland. As you know, Venture Portland serves our 50 neighborhood business districts, which represent over 19,000 individual businesses and provide nearly 250,000 jobs in Portland alone. The average small business in our city employs 3 or fewer people. And remember, when we shop local, 70% of every dollar stays in our local economy. Venture Portland is completing the 3rd year in a program designed to bring increased capacity and resources to business districts in North and East Portland. The so-called Catalytic Investment Initiative is exceeding our expectations. The modest investment we've made is making a huge difference in these traditionally underserved business districts, and I look forward to continuing to support this project into the future. With that, I'll turn it over to Heather Hale. Heather, welcome.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for making time for us today. Hopefully that's coming through okay. There we go. All right. As Commissioner Fish, thank you for introducing me. I'm Matthew Macetic. I'm the president of Venture Portland, as well as the owner of Red Castle Games on Southeast Foster. Last year was a tremendous success for my business. We had record-setting holiday sales, and year-over-year sales growth was 18% over 2016, so business is strong in Foster. We also had a tremendous achievement, and we purchased a commercial building on the Foster corridor, because much like people in housing, there's a lot of displacement in businesses as well, and this will ensure our future and my 10 employees' future on Foster forever now. So it's really exciting that we can put our roots even deeper into the neighborhood. Finally, I'm also president of the Foster Area Business Association, one of Portland's 50 neighborhood business districts. As you may have heard, our business district is getting a new shelter this year. While siting a shelter is never an easy task, Mayor Wheeler, I've been impressed by the responsiveness of your team to the questions raised by Foster businesses, and particularly the hard work of your policy advisor, Sarah Fee Allen.
Thank you, and I'll pass that on to her. She's probably hearing
Over
you.
there.
Oh, she's here. Very good. Thank you.
I look forward to working with you and your staff, the Joint Office on Homeless Services, to implement the innovative Foster Area Shelter Steering Committee. I think this will be a great new resource to help bring the neighborhood and the shelter provider, as well as other interested parties, together and make this as successful as possible in our district. But we're here to talk about Venture Portland today. 2017 was a big year for Venture Portland. We launched new programs, expanded the Catalytic Investment Initiative into North Portland, and continued our partnership with you, City Council. As you know, Venture Portland is the support system for Portland's neighborhood business districts, which contain 19,200 individual neighborhood businesses and provide employment for 267,000 Portlanders. We are the only entity in Portland that works exclusively at the business district level, making us the support system for all of the city's neighborhood business districts. In Portland, small really is big. Venture Portland promotes these critical commercial corridors and supports the dedicated volunteers that manage them with training, technical assistance, and grants. In fact, over the last 21 years in partnership with the city, Venture Portland has invested more than $1.5 million into business district growth, leveraging an additional $4.9 million in private business district investment. This is a more than 3-to-1 match. As president, I know that the strength of this organization has always come from our collective efforts. The beliefs that the business of Portland is about more than just business. It's about the people, the neighborhoods, and the culture we have. It's about passion and dedication and starting something because you believe you have a great idea to make your part of Portland a wonderful place. It's also about the vision of our city that business owners, residents, and elected officials share. A vision that celebrates the individualism and distinct flavor that makes Portland, Portland. There's no Chicagolandia, there's only been a Portlandia. The knowledge that our diverse neighborhoods and unique views make up the very fabric that binds us and our city together is what creates this great cohesive place. Venture Portland means business, and so do all of you. So I'll turn it over to Heather to discuss the specifics of our 2017 achievements and our 2018 plans. Heather.
Thank you, Matthew. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. My name's Heather Hale. I'm the Executive Director of Venture Portland. As Matthew said, 2017 was a big year for Venture Portland and the neighborhood business districts we supported. The following brief overview provides a snapshot of our work over the last 12 months. After 7 years of sustained double-digit growth, we once again expanded access to our capacity building services. We increased participation in our training and technical assistance program 11%, with almost 600 business district leaders attending one of 44 trainings that covered everything from the legal responsibilities of nonprofit officers to the creation of an enhanced services district to asset mapping in diverse and rapidly changing neighborhoods. And we addressed more than 600 district-specific requests from districts citywide. That's a 25% increase over the number that I reported to you last year. This in-depth personalized support helped districts navigate major leadership transitions and effectively manage business mix, built form, and demographic changes in our rapidly growing city. Over the last year, we provided 3,294 hours of training and technical assistance to district leaders from emerging and established districts. That's a 41% increase over what I reported last year. To put this exponential growth in perspective, in just the first 6 months of this fiscal year, we've already roughly matched the entire number of training and technical assistance hours provided in FY 14-15. We also significantly expanded access to our grants, awarding more than $100,000 to fund 42 projects that leveraged almost $400,000 in additional business district investment, a nearly 4-to-1 match, making these some of the most efficient dollars the city spends. In addition, 2/3 of our total grants went to underserved business districts in East and North Portland. The following are a few examples of how these catalytic funds have supported neighborhoods. After helping Beaumont, which is Northeast Fremont, launch Dash to Donuts in conjunction with Portland hosting the 2016 World Indoor Track and Field Championships, we provided grant funding to expand this unique event that partners two unlikely district businesses, Foot Traffic and Pips Donuts, to encourage a fun run and track and field style obstacle course hosted at individual businesses. The success of this family-friendly event led the way for the district to launch a series of new events this year, including Halloween and holiday promotions, and significantly increase business engagement. After 2 years of unrelenting district construction on Williams, including 11 new high-rise buildings, which brought more than 1,000 new apartments, about 100,000 square feet of retail space, plus a bike lane that is the only one in the city on the left side of the street, Williams was concerned about losing the community's history and identity. After adopting honoring history and embracing change as their manifesto, the district used Venture Portland grant funds to commission professional photographs of the district's diverse businesses, customers, and residents for use online and in published collateral, including their district map, which this year also proudly features the Black Williams Project historic markers. Finally, after receiving significant feedback from Northwest industrial businesses in the industrial sanctuary and acknowledging that there were, in fact, no residents inside the industrial sanctuary, Northwest Industrial moved to operate exclusively as a business association. In partnership with ONI and Neighbors West Northwest, Venture Portland helped these volunteers navigate this transition and provided grant funding to launch an inaugural membership campaign that has generated first-time revenue for this important close-in industrial community. The overwhelming majority of Portland businesses are neighborhood-based, which means neighborhood businesses truly power Portland's economy. All year, but especially during the holidays, Venture Portland helped cash registers ring citywide. In addition to launching 6 new business district events between Halloween and New Year's, we promoted, and I attended, 50 retail events in 21 days, including Little Boxes, which incentivized 15,000 store visits on Black Friday and Small Business Saturday. And we continued to support Multnomah Village's innovative Golden Ticket program, which has generated $6 million in retail sales in just Hillsdale and Multnomah Village over the last 6 years. It is that kind of innovation that truly makes our economy hum. We also helped connect neighborhood businesses with city commissioners and bureaus. For the 4th year in a row, we worked with all permitting bureaus to ensure that 100% of street fairs were permitted. This is a yeoman's effort. These 50 events collectively attract 1 million visitors annually. So I'd like to give huge extra thanks to PBOT staff for continuing to make this process manageable and affordable for these volunteer-run associations. As I told you this fall, I'm very excited about Council's newly adopted Livable Streets strategy, which I expect will make 2018's season of street fairs and festivals even more successful. We continued our partnership with BES and PBOT to mitigate the impact of construction and demonstration projects on neighborhood businesses, especially during the critical holiday retail period. By coordinating construction schedules, communicating with business district leaders while planning projects, and adhering to the construction blackout between Thanksgiving and Christmas, these bureaus have made the city that works work better for business. Following Council's unanimous vote last year, business and neighborhood associations now receive the same city notifications for the first time as residential neighborhoods, correcting a systemic inequity. Speaking of notifications, while land use and zoning are frequently hot-button issues, by providing equitable information to business districts about proposed changes in their communities, you are better able to leverage Portland's creative and thoughtful business owners and give them the opportunity to work with you to find solutions to some of our biggest challenges. In particular, I want to note the examples recently set by Kenton, Lloyd, and Foster. When given the opportunity to have a meaningful discussion with city leaders about the need to provide shelter for our most vulnerable citizens, all 3 districts rose to the challenge and have welcomed shelters and temporary housing. After negotiating a number of sustainability improvements with our landlord, we secured our Sustainability at Work certification. We also worked with BPS and their economic planning team to design and develop an online database, which is expected to launch this spring, that will provide critical business district demographic and economic trend information to district leaders citywide. This is a very huge and exciting development. Last month, we worked with public information officers from PBOT, ONI, emergency response bureaus, and your offices to plan severe weather communications. And as a member of the Age-Friendly Portland and Multnomah County Task Force, we maintained our Age-Friendly Business certification. Finally, we were exceptionally proud to be one of the first partner organizations to sign on to Commissioner Fish's All-User Restroom Challenge and to help promote neighborhood businesses doing the right thing for their customers. Last, but certainly not least, I want to recognize Venture Portland's dedicated volunteers, several of whom are with us here today. Our board, made up of one representative from each business district, contributed a whopping 1,386 volunteer hours last year. These volunteer hours, which are equal to 0.67 FTE or 27 hours a week, were in addition to each board member's work in their own business and volunteer work in their own business district. Our success would not be possible without this incredible commitment. Finally, I want to acknowledge the exceptional community spirit of Portland's neighborhood business owners. In the face of 2017's unprecedented challenges, they came together to weather a series of crises, ranging from severe weather to threats and violence, and opened their hearts and their wallets to respond with their own unprecedented generosity. By leveraging their entrepreneurial creativity and promoting their shared values, they have once again proven that the business of Portland is about much more than just business. Last year, we transitioned our innovative East Portland pilot project into the Catalytic Investment Initiative and expanded the effort into North Portland. This catalytic effort addresses disparity and gentrification in 8 targeted districts and has 3 short-term goals to increase membership, volunteers, and revenue. I'm thrilled to report that in the first 2 years of this work, we have radically exceeded all of our goals. We increased membership 112%, so that slightly more than half of all business district members are now new in these districts. We also increased volunteerism 35% while diversifying business district leadership and bringing it in line with the demographic population they represent. And finally, we generated almost $200,000 in new revenue to help support neighborhood businesses. That's private investment that is coming in as leverage for city dollars. And that's not all. We've also made significant progress on our long-term goals to create a stronger support network that crosses business district boundaries, create stronger ties between businesses and residents, and improve business identity and positive public perception of East and North Portland. We helped districts launch more than 24 events designed to connect residents with businesses and make cash registers ring in economically lagging parts of Portland. We improved the perception of East and North Portland with 56 positive media stories in a variety of publications. And we increased district capacity to help the city invest more than $100 million in public infrastructure projects in these 8 targeted districts. So how have we done it? We started by hiring professional staff and placing them directly in business districts. We provided seed funding to help districts experiment with new programs that better serve their diverse districts, and we provided innovative and personalized technical assistance to districts, including helping them identify 49 geographic nodes of commercial clusters, analyzing almost 10,000 diversity points to help districts set diversity benchmarks, visiting more than 3,000 individual businesses and using their feedback to improve business district programming, and finally analyzing the diversity and skill sets of almost 75 business district volunteers to help them better recruit and develop new leaders. I could talk about the success of this project all day, but wanted to let you hear from the business district organizers who have implemented this work. Brad.
Hi, my name is Brad Faulkner. I'm the district organizer for 82nd Avenue of Roses Business District. This last August, we hosted our 2nd annual Around the World in 82 Dishes, a month-long international food tour on 82nd Avenue. 73% of the 45 participating restaurants were minority-owned, and 1/3 of them became brand new association members because of the program. We produced a 5-language passport and generated more than 300 purchases during the campaign. Catalytic Investment Initiative funding enabled passport production and translation, and without dedicated staffing to successfully address cultural and language barriers with these diverse businesses, this hugely successful district-wide event would not have happened. We are currently planning our third event for this next fall.
Thank you.
Dane.
My name is Dan Fredericks. I am the district organizer for Foster area. In November, we held our third annual winter tree lighting on Foster Road. More than 300 kids and families braved the cold and donated over 250 pounds of food to the food bank in our district. We distributed 300 promotional bags, including coupons, to district businesses, and this promotion helped contribute district-wide holiday sales success, including Matthew's record-setting sales, as you heard earlier. Catalytic Investment Initiative funding enabled us to expand this event into a revenue-generating promotion for district businesses.
Thank you.
My name is Calvin Hoff, and I am the district organizer for Gateway area. Earlier this year, I represented Gateway and the City of Portland at People for Bikes National Conference, with significant infrastructure investment occurring in Gateway, including 13 new bike lanes and 2 new parks. Having a seat at this conference was critical for the business district. Catalytic Investment Initiative funding will enable us to launch a brand new event this summer, Cruising Gateway, that will promote our new infrastructure and connect Gateway Transit Center, Discovery Park, and the Halsey-Weiler Couplet. I am also the district organizer for Kenton. This fall, Kenton used Catalytic Investment Initiative funding to launch the Tall Paul celebration, which resulted in the unveiling of the newly refurbished Paul Bunyan statue. Our district's iconic landmark, built in honor of the state's centennial anniversary, had fallen into disrepair. Kenton came together and collectively raised more than $80,000 for this renovation. Kenton also hosts the first street fair of the season, and I hope you'll join us in May, where you can check out Paul.
Thank you.
I am also the organizer for the Midway Business District. Last spring, Midway used Catalytic Investment Initiative funding to launch a first-time event at Powell Butte. After mapping the assets of our very large and very diverse district, we realized that we weren't taking full advantage of a major regional destination. In partnership with the Water Bureau, we hosted a business fair on the Butte, turned out community members for a service project planting native species, and sent them on a business scavenger hunt through the district to grow Midway's economy. The event was such a success, we are currently planning our second annual event this June. More than 50 businesses and 20 partnering organizations will be involved, and I hope you will join us.
I'm also the district organizer for Parkrose. In October, Parkrose held its third annual Trunk or Treat at Parkrose High School. This innovative event gathers the businesses in our non-pedestrian-friendly district in a safe and walkable space to provide candy to kids and coupons to adults. After launching the event in 2015 in record-setting rain, we more than doubled participation this year with 2,000 kids and families attending. District businesses and local partners, like the team from PPB's North Precinct, dress up and have a great time giving back to our hugely diverse community. We are also using Catalytic Investment Initiative funding to promote the businesses that contribute to Parkrose Business Association's College Scholarship Program. In a school district that speaks more than 24 languages, district businesses have raised more than $80,000 over the last several years to make college attainable for Parkrose's best and brightest.
Why is it called Trunk or Treat?
I'm sorry?
Why is it called Trunk or Treat rather than Trick or Treat?
Because it takes place in the Parkrose High School parking lot, because there's a lack of walkable neighborhoods for the kids.
So businesses bring a car or a truck and they decorate their trunk, which is where they have candy, so that kids can be in one safe, contained area instead of going door to door because it's not a walkable neighborhood.
I was hoping it might be a tree planting thing as well.
Maybe next year.
As you may have noticed, the Williams District is undergoing a massive transformation. With 11 new high-rise buildings, more than 1,000 new apartments, and over 100,000 square feet of ground floor retail space, we've been under construction for the last 3 solid years. To remind people that Williams isn't just a difficult construction site, we used Catalytic Investment Initiative funding to launch Walk Williams, a 6-month program featuring late business hours, discounts, deals, and the opportunity to win prizes just by visiting businesses. To combat the previous displacement of Williams' African American population and ongoing gentrification pressures in this vibrant district, we're honoring our history and embracing our change. I hope to see many of you walking Williams when we kick off our 2nd year on May 9th.
Awesome. Thank you, Brad, Calvin, and Dane. This program is working exactly as we had anticipated. Although we launched this effort as a 12-month demonstration project, we knew that for a catalytic investment of this magnitude to succeed long-term, it would require a 3 to 5 year effort per district. At the midpoint of year 3, I'm pleased to report that it is, in fact, working. On December 31st, the Montavilla East Tabor Business District graduated from the Catalytic Investment Initiative, following 30 months of record-breaking growth due to Venture Portland's high-touch, personalized assistance. Recently ranked one of the top 10 neighborhoods in the United States by Lonely Planet, on January 1st, Montavilla hired its own first-time executive director. They were able to use city funding to catalyze their own growth, build their capacity, and ensure their financial stability. They have graduated from the program into their own success, and we're now able to transition these resources to the newest formal business district in the city of Portland, Lentz. I'm also excited to tell you that using privately generated funds, we've expanded the successful model to additional business districts citywide, including Northeast Broadway, which hired its own first-time staffer in late 2017, and using that organizers' time uncovered a 33% increase in businesses in their district. Following the explosion in Nob Hill last year, we also helped that district to hire a first-time staff person to bring the community together, plan recovery, and help ensure ongoing district resilience. In 2018, we're expanding even further. We are helping 6 districts invest in first-time staffing. This is fully privately paid, leveraging the great resources that the city has invested in Venture Portland. It's bringing an additional 64 hours a week of employment and more than $100,000 in new payroll to our city. Our ongoing partnership truly drives Portland's economy. Last year, neighborhood businesses contributed more than $100 million in taxes to help fund essential city services like first responders and parks. And now it's your turn. We're hoping that as you design the FY 18-19 budget, even in a resource-constrained environment, that you transition our successful catalytic investment initiative to ongoing funding to ensure it will continue. It is a pleasure and a privilege to get to work with you and your bureaus. Together, we are growing business and connecting neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Commissioner Fish, it's my understanding this is a presentation only. Is that correct?
That's right. We can just informally accept the report, or formally accept the report. It's their annual report.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Fritz and Udaley, respectively, please call the roll.
Fritz.
Mostly, I wanted to congratulate you, have an opportunity to make a little speech, because I really appreciate this presentation. Thank you, Commissioner Fish, for your leadership and support of Venture Portland. I remember when it was fewer than, I think, 39 neighborhoods. And so I got a bit dizzy at the beginning when you were doing all the logos, because not only were there a lot more neighborhoods, but they all now have their branding. And so it's really exciting to see the expansion that you've been able to do. I was especially glad to hear at the end about the private money coming in and the graduating of Montavilla. That's very exciting. I have to say on a personal note that the Portland Cacophony Society, I think, started the handing out of donuts at races at the Shamrock Run, but they give beer as well. So might need to, they do it in gorilla suits though, so I think maybe your particular way of doing it is safe, or else they'll have to think of something even more in Portlandish to make the mark. So thank you very much for all that you've done, and I very much appreciate you taking the time to come in for this report. Aye.
Fish?
Well, I can't tell you how proud I am of the work of Venture Portland and this leadership team. I think the request that, Heather, that you make that we convert a portion of the catalytic investment program to ongoing, I think is compelling. We have some tough choices to make in this budget, but thank you for flagging that. That's an issue that we can track with the Prosper Portland budget. I want to thank you for really framing over the holidays the whole Buy Local campaign. You know, we know what the benefits are of buying local, but I think it was very important that you got the word out about how 70 cents of every dollar stays home, that you can save $1 on Amazon, but at what cost? Amazon doesn't pay taxes here. Amazon doesn't invest in Little League. They don't have volunteers working to keep the neighborhood looking nice. So we have a choice. And I took the pledge, and I did all my shopping, mostly actually at Matthew's toy store, at his game shop. But he did solve one family problem, which is that my son has been winning all of the games that we play. So Matthew introduced me to a new kind of game where it's not my son against the rest of us, but we're all of us against some plague. So thank you. I think it brought some peace over the holidays. I also appreciated that you called out the work of PBOT in coordinating capital construction projects. And I want to say that under Dan's leadership, he's really taken that to the next level. And for people just who followed this for a long time, once upon a time, the Portland Bureau of Transportation, the Bureau of Environmental Services would plan big capital construction projects, and they wouldn't necessarily consult with the impacted business district to find out if that was going to be intrusive. Now it's just baked into the system that the work will not be done during signature events. We're not going to be tearing up St. John's during the St. John's Parade. Things of that nature. But it took change in culture, it took advocacy, and now it takes good coordination and communication between infrastructure bureaus to make sure that we work around the signature events that neighborhoods plan, and you've had an important role in that. I'm very proud of the fact that the voice of small business is now at the table with our neighborhoods helping make good policy. And it took a change where we had to mandate you got the same notice that neighborhood associations. But I think we all believe that when we have more people at the table in good faith, we often get better outcomes. And I think it's been very important to have the small business community at the table. And finally, we don't always get it right, and we're continuing to learn from experience. Heather was a little aggrieved a couple years ago during a winter storm. I think part of the winter storm I was in charge as the president of the council and the mayor being out of town, in which our message to people was stay home, it's not safe. Well, that is technically true. We did not want people getting their cars, driving on the roads. But it missed a nuance, which is stay home, don't drive, but frequent your neighborhood small business. It is okay to go out, walk a few blocks, and in fact, we must do that because neighborhood small businesses often get hammered during snowstorms. And so our message has now evolved where we are counseling safe behavior, like not getting behind the wheel of a car, but also taking advantage during those snow days of shopping locally and supporting our neighborhood businesses. And Venture Portland was very emphatic about the need to change our messaging in that regard. So I think it's a tremendous partnership. The record speaks for itself in terms of how you've leveraged public resources, and I will work with my colleagues to see if we can't convert some of that catalytic investment money to ongoing. So thank you all for your good work. Aye.
Saltzman?
Well, as always, a very impressive report and really tangible results. I think the investment, I think it was 12 hours a week of staff with each neighborhood association or business association is really evident in the presentation you just provided for all the different neighborhoods that you've been working in. Really remarkable identities being associated and events that get people excited and help create revenue for the small businesses. So excellent job, and Heather, you've done a great job as the head of Venture Portland. This is a remarkable report, as always. I'm pleased to support it. Aye.
Udaly.
Thank you for the report. I enjoyed working with Venture Portland back when I was vice president of the Historic Mississippi Business Association. I thought it was a great time to get out of retail last January. Now I have to reconsider that decision because those numbers are pretty impressive. And of course, I'm a big supporter of our local small businesses. I would love to see more collaboration between neighborhood associations and business associations because I think there's a lot of missed opportunities there to work on shared priorities. And so I would be happy to help facilitate that through ONI. And I'm also a supporter of the Catalytic Investment Initiative, and I will continue to do that. Aye.
Wheeler.
So I want to thank you on a couple of counts. First of all, you took a very principled and courageous stand with regard to the shelter that we have opened in Southeast Portland, or that we're in the process of standing up. And I want to thank you for the shuttle diplomacy you engaged in on that issue, and you provided what I thought was a very informed and rational voice during that discussion, and I appreciate it. I know Seraphy continually reported back to me that the conversations were productive and meaningful. So I want to personally thank you for that while I've got you here. I want to acknowledge that we are, in fact, a small business city. Most people in this city are employed by small businesses, so it's important that you be successful. Your success is the city's success. And as you mentioned, Heather, it's more than just a bottom line proposition or an economic prosperity proposition. Small businesses actually help define in really important ways the look and the feel of this community. And if there's anything I've learned about the work that my colleagues here have done and city staff has done around the 2035 Central City Plan, it's that people want to live in complete communities. And if you see the polling data that's in the news this morning, it absolutely underscores the point. People want to be able to live close to where their kids go to school, close to where they work, close to where there are amenities. And those amenities are, of course, provided by small business owners and operators in the community. So again, your success is integral to the kind of long-term vision that we have for this city that is supported by polling in terms of what the public says they want and expect from their government. So I appreciate that. And finally, I just want to thank you for being community leaders. In a time where it seems it is almost epidemic that we think about the worst case scenarios and we think about what's going wrong, rather than being appreciative or grateful for what is actually going right. You're an organization that brings people together in the community, helps encourage people to be proud of their neighborhoods and the community, and you have never lost sight of what I think is the single most important missing ingredient in today's society, which is you bring fun to the neighborhood. And it's great. I just loved watching these photos of kids and parents and older adults coming together and meeting their neighbors and sharing a good time. And we need a lot more of that, particularly right now in our society. And you guys are providing the leadership to do that. You are espousing a positive vision of what this community is and what this community can be and what it will be. And so I just want to thank you as individual leaders for that. Obviously, I vote aye. The report's adopted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next time certain, please. 91.
Accept the quarterly Technology Oversight Committee report from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Colleagues, speaking of fun, the Technology Oversight Committee provides citizen oversight on significant city technology projects, especially those that are high risk or high cost. This gives us early and continued technology oversight by the independent 5-member committee for the purpose of increased transparency and accountability. The Technology Oversight Committee sends quarterly reports to the Chief Administrative Officer, who then forwards the reports here to the Portland City Council. The quarterly reports include information from each project's independent quality assurance consultant and TOC's assessment of the project's status. I want to thank our Bureau staff for taking the input of the Technology Oversight Committee seriously. The POPS project will help reduce delays in permitting, and our Bureau staff have made changes to help ensure that this project is successful. I'd like to add that next week, Commissioner Udaley and I have an item coming to the City Council that will address some of these issues and upgrade our permitting system to continue to make the kind of progress we want to see moving forward. To discuss today's report further is the City of Portland's Chief Technology Officer, Jeff Bear, and Technology Oversight Committee member, Josh Mitchell. And I'm not sure who would like to kick us off.
Good morning. My name is Jen Clodius.
Jen is. Thank you, Jen.
I am Senior Management Analyst with the Office of Management and Finance, and I'm staff for the Technology Oversight Committee. As you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, with me are Jeff Bear, the Director of BTS.
Jen, can I interrupt?
Surely.
I keep forgetting to do something, and it's really important. Colleagues, can we suspend the rules for just one moment? Ben Walters, sitting right over there, in the legal box, and I learned yesterday that is what they call it. They call it the box. This is his last day as an employee of the City of Portland after 32 years of dedicated service. Can we give him a round of applause? And I hope he'll someday teach me how to tie a bow tie that well. Thank you, Ben. Here. No, I've watched the video. It's the magic right there where it just sort of disappears. That's the part I'm struggling with.
He's struggling too.
Finding the loop in the back.
Yeah. Yeah, you can describe it all you want. My ability to do it's somewhat limited.
We don't want to do anything against the law.
There you go. Thank you. Sorry, Jen, to interrupt. Thank you.
No worries. That was a worthwhile interruption. I'm glad that Ben got the acknowledgement. It's been great working with him. Also with me is Josh Mitchell, who is the TOC member that is helping Jeff out today. I have to say this is Josh's last day as a TOC member. He is now working with BTS on the new website refresh project.
Great. Thanks, Josh.
So we will be contacting your office, Commissioner Udaley, for a new member for you. Great. So the other 4 members of the TOC are Ken Neubauer, Dr. Wilf Pinfold, Diana Garcia, and Mike Lynch. As you mentioned, the TOC advises the Chief Administrative Officer, Tom Reinhardt. We are here to present the information from TOC's quarterly report from Mr. Reinhardt to you. This is information from October through December, so it's 5 weeks out of date information at this point. So Josh and Jeff will be updating the information for you. We have 2 dashboards to show you. The first one is for POPS.
All right, thank you, Jen. Good morning, Mayor Wheeler, Member of City Council, Jeff Bear for the Bureau of Technology Services, and here to talk about a number of different updates since the quarterly report was filed, covering the months of October through December last year in 2017. Since that time, we've had a lot of different activities to establish the platform for which we're going to be moving forward with. We brought the...
Just start by just giving an overview of what the Portland Online Permitting System is.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
So POPS is known as the Portland Online Permitting System. The previous project, which we undertook over a course of several years, was referred to as ITAP. That is no longer the case. We've evolved it into the Portland Online Permitting System. What that is going to do is provide an electronic permitting system different than what we have today at the Bureau of Development Services. And one of the key pieces that we're actually working on that you'll hear about more in detail next week is the combination of electronic plan review. So in a completely electronic way to view plans and submittal. It's a product called Project Docs. So we'll hold that aside for now. Did that cover that? Thank you. In terms of the reporting, you'll notice that although the 2 reporting periods for November and December are marked yellow, that's from the
external quality assurance assessment. This was just a new engagement with a new consultant for external QA services. You'll notice too that the Technology Oversight Committee members did not weigh in and assess the project because we are starting to get the foundation to which we are building on for an implementation approach for the Amanda 7 product in combination with the electronic plan review. I'll hold off there. We've done a lot of different work on the ground in terms of getting the right pieces in place to do a formal launch, but I'll turn it over to Josh for his comments.
Definitely. So the major accomplishments that they reported to us for this quarter were scoping and basically doing an approach meeting with the vendor that they're going to be working with. I was able to actually attend part of that, and I was very impressed with the general approach that the vendor was taking, the structure of it. They were looking for quick wins. They were looking for ways to break it up so that they can continually deliver value to the city rather than having a large delivery 2 years into the future. And I think that's an important part of what we've seen in an ongoing basis with the project. They're also creating a high-level architecture to just make sure that they understand what they need in place to implement the system. They're creating business to functional requirements and modifying over what they had previously documented because, again, that previous approach was going to be this large delivery of something that was going to take a long time. And so they're really trying to hone in on the requirements that allow them to deliver something sooner. Project Docs is a very good example of that, where they can do online review, get rid of paper documents, and try to reduce the time it takes to review those things. Those sorts of projects can be done in a smaller fashion. They're still working on the scope, schedule, and budget, and that's one of the reasons why the TOC requested that we not put a red, yellow, green on it yet. Until we actually know what the scope, schedule, and budget are, it's hard to say that the project either is or is not on track. And so we didn't want to prematurely say that it's going to fail or that it's going to be great because we really don't have enough information to provide that back to the city. Upcoming milestones that are planned right now, definitely getting the contracting in place to continue with the vendor, having that complete solution design put out by the vendor and by the team that are implementing it, deciding whether the implementation should be hosted here at the city or should it be hosted in a managed hosting environment where the vendor actually takes care of it for the city. There's pros and cons to each. They still have some additional staffing that they want to bring on. And in general, one of the risks and concerns that we had going into the end of last year was the requested proposal for reorganization. One of the things that we see as a key way to achieve success in this project is to make it really clear who's responsible for the delivery, make it really clear who's responsible for managing that overall product. As of the December meeting, there were definitely some hesitation within the TOC as a whole in terms of what that approach was looking like. There have been some steps taken to address that, and I'm sure that will be coming in upcoming presentations as well.
Very good. Thank you, Josh.
So on the data center project, excuse me, this is one where a project you probably don't hear a lot about. It was one that we completed last December, fully taking and decommissioning the old data center, full migration out to the new location out off Highway 26 in Hillsborough. And we are currently, and actually we were the last ones out of the Portland building before construction started over there across the street. So we are completely out of the building. The data center is completely moved. Everything's been decommissioned. And now we are in the secondary phase of this project, which is actually setting up our disaster recovery backup site in Denver, Colorado. So it's one of those projects that was completed on time and on schedule.
I'll just add that the TOC was impressed with that project throughout. Excellent job by the city staff in putting out a budget and also a schedule and a scope and beating it on every level. And that's really impressive whenever you can see a project like that happen. Large data center moves are complicated, and they performed admirably.
Yeah, that's all we have, unless there's questions.
Very good. Josh, could I just get a clarification? I think you answered this sufficiently, but the POPs went from green in our last report to yellow today. Is that simply reflective of the fact that we're bringing back the software upgrade?
It's more related to the progress that was made on the Discovery project during that time period, and specifically how the QA that had been brought in felt that it had changed as a result of some uncertainty around the reporting structure of who was going to be responsible for what and what features were going to be included in the upcoming timeline. I think they're beginning to address it, definitely from a position of looking at it from the outside, and also having had an opportunity to attend a couple of those meetings where they were doing the planning for the next version. They're really working hard to try to break it apart. It continues to be a concern, though, like how are you going to structure the responsibility for that delivery so that it can get done in a timely fashion? And that's, I think that's ongoing. And that's the QA's biggest concern. They see a lot of risk in that uncertainty. Again, until that scope and budget are really put in place and that schedule is put in place, the TOC felt it wasn't necessarily appropriate to rate it because it's not a started project until that point.
Very good. And you seem like you're shaking your head yes, so it sounds like you're in agreement with,
Yes.
with the basic hypothesis here.
Yes, I am. And one of the things that we've been working on, and this is during the reporting period, so it's not reflective in this current report here, is I've been working directly with Development Services Director Rebecca Esau. Her and I have been jointly focused on how do we ensure we've got the right platform, right foundation for where we're going to go forward. We've made a lot of those decisions already in this time frame, and in fact, a lot of decisions have been made over the past month in where are we going to be at in the summer, where are we going to be at in 2019. So we've got a clear plan, and that's what we're going to be presenting back next week.
Very good. Colleagues, any further questions? I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Fish moves. Commissioner Fritz seconds. Please call the roll.
Fritz.
Thank you for this report. Thank you, especially Mr. Mitchell, for all your service on the committee. I'm especially pleased to hear that you were invited to be part of the consultant conversation early on, because that's absolutely the intent of the Technology Oversight Committee, is to be involved very early so that we get the initial steps right, which hopefully will then result in good outcomes. So, and I know that a lot of people in the Bureau are working hard. Thank you, Director Esau. And it's a complicated project. We need all the help we can get to make sure it gets done right. Aye.
Fish.
Thank you for an excellent report. Aye.
Saltzman.
Yeah, thank you for your work, Mr. Mitchell, your service on the committee, and best of luck to you with the city. And thank you all for giving us a great report. Aye.
Wheeler.
Well done. Thank you. Aye. Report's accepted. Next, item 99, please.
Reappoint Jenny Kim and appoint Tommy Renee Hetman to the Home Forward Board of Commissioners.
Colleagues, today I have the pleasure of reappointing Jenny Kim and appointing Tomarine Hetman to the Home Forward Board of Commissioners. Jenny, a graduate from the University of California with a degree in microbiology and molecular genetics, has served on the National Korean American Coalition and the American Cancer Society boards. She believes anyone, regardless of their education level, race, gender, or religious beliefs, deserves the American dream of a happy and stable life. Tomarine Hetman served on the Home Forward's Resident Advisory Committee. She has an impressive list of volunteer experiences, serving Hollywood Farmers Market, the Lean On Me program, and the Humane Society. Tomarine feels an opportunity like this will expand her heart and soul. With us today to discuss the great work of the Home Forward Board of Commissioners, the work that the Home Forward Board of Commissioners is doing, is Ian Davey, the Chief Operating Officer of Home Forward, and Home Forward Board of Commissioners Chair Mickey Herman, Jenny Kim, and Tomarine Hetman. Come on up.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Well, good morning, Commissioners and Mayor. Thank you very much. At Home Forward, we always strive to fulfill our primary goal of...
I'm sorry, and could you state your name for the record?
Sure, of course. My name is Ian Davey, Chief Operating Officer at Home Forward. We always strive to achieve our primary goal of providing affordable housing to the Portland and Multnomah County community. As part of that, it's very important for us to always remain connected with the community and with our residents. As the mayor explained, Tomi-Reen Hetman has been a valued member of the Home Forward community for many years. She has resided in our housing nearly 9 years, has resided in Multnomah County and Portland for nearly 2 decades, and has served not only on our resident advisory committee, but also on various interview committees, hiring staff within the agency. She's very connected to the agency and, as you heard, connected to the community, and we're very excited to have her joining our Board of Commissioners. Jenny Kim has been introduced to this body before, sometime in the last year. You heard of her accolades as well, and the commitment that she maintains to the community, and we're also very excited to have her reappointed to our Board of Commissioners. At this point, I'll hand it to Tomi-Reen for any comment she has.
I am so humbled and honored to be coming into this commissionership. I realize it's not about me. I am going to be the voice of many, many, many residents of Home Forward. And back in December, I was struck by this couple of quick paragraphs from my mentor in faith, Daisaku Ikeda. A society that has sacrificed so much material wealth that it has forgotten the human heart and the better human aspirations degenerates into something compassionless, doctrinaire, ignorant, and ultra-conservative. When this happens, fundamental solutions to calamities become impossible. If we protect the truth and are resolute, we are capable of creating peace and prosperity. And the truth we must protect ought to be high and great. Our great truth, the truth that we must protect to the utmost, involves ethics and the best of human nature. But more basic than anything else is our duty to guard the truth of life, the truth that we and the universe are one, and that a single ordinary human thought contains the entirety of universal life. I am so happy to be here this morning. Thank you.
We're very appreciative of your service. Thank you.
I don't know if I can follow that because I don't have a quote like that, but thank you again for allowing me this opportunity to be reappointed. And I know that a lot of people have come before me in this role to do the right thing by our citizens. And yeah, I'm very honored to be part of this wonderful organization. And I do have to give a lot of credit and kudos for the staff that we have at Home Forward. We have an amazing leadership team and fellow commissioners who have a lot of passion and genuine interest in well-being of people. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you. Colleagues, any questions?
I move the report.
Second. This is a
The
resolution.
resolution.
Excuse me.
Is there any public testimony on this item?
Yes, we have one person signed up, Shedrick J. Wilkins.
Very good. Close the list. You can cool your heels. Thank you. Yeah, if you want to sit down, you can go ahead and sit down.
Do you want to come sit? Sure.
Go ahead, Senator.
Hi, I'm Shedrick Wilkins, and I do believe, and I'll tie this conversation to the next issue is prostitution. I do believe that low-cost housing allows women to not have to sell themselves for rent money. Over the holidays, I love a movie called It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart. And there's this Pottersville where everybody's renting, and he wants people to own their own home. And in a parallel universe created by the angel or whatever, Violet Bick, who's kind of flirty, is forced into prostitution, and she's handcuffed. And I like that scene, and it's really weird. And just to relate it,
can you bring this back to the
issue is, if you really want to get women off of prostitution, you must provide them with low-cost housing.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning
super justice watchdog. Absolutely agree with the two people being reappointed and appointed. Again, on my position is that I'm hoping that the group would also focus again on the Metro housing bond that is currently moving forward. Provide your input on how you would like to see the possibly $500 million up to possibly $1 billion be distributed, and through the housing community and also to the people. Again, I found it interesting, if I heard correct, molecular genetics. I'm a watchdog of Calico on the on expanding your life expectancy, the years, and if you begin to really understand providing the proper housing to people that are currently homeless, you can also be providing them additional years of their life. And you have to start calculating this out on the research that is being done from such as Larry Page at Calico on what you can actually do for the homeless communities on expanding their life as far as adding more years from housing to health to safety. And understand that when the communities or the commissioners or anyone thinks that people living out on the streets is going to add more years to their life, you have to start understanding that it is traumatic to them, it is stressful to them, it is unsafe to them, it is unhealthy to them, it is not having a concern for them if you think living outdoors is good for them and the longevity of their life. So just again, I think you're both great people to have on this. And again, just focus on the $500 million bond and focus on getting more housing projects out for the people currently out there, and to build new, create new jobs, buy local, and focus on that, and don't buy existing or current inventory, which I do disagree with that, because we want to add more supply, more jobs, and more inventory out in the marketplace is what I want to see happen. So anyway, great selections, and I look forward to seeing what you're going to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Fritz.
Well, Ms. Hetman and Ms. Kim, each of you have come a long way in different ways, and so I really appreciate your willingness to serve as commissioners. This is a very important board that Home Forward relies on, we rely on, and you each provide a perspective that is not currently on the board, which is always important. So thank you to Home Forward, for the Mayor, for making these selections, and wish you all the best. It's truly a task that needs all of us engaging constructively rather than adversarially. So thank you very much. Aye.
Fish.
I want to thank both of our candidates for agreeing to serve. When I came to Portland, the great Gretchen Kafori urged me to consider serving on the board of what was then called Home Forward, or the Housing Authority of Portland. And it was an amazing experience, and it was really the training that helped me be more effective when I later became housing commissioner for the city of Portland. And it is a fiduciary board where critical decisions are made about how we spend, particularly the federal funds. So it's an enormously important assignment. And I want to just also acknowledge that the resident commissioner plays a unique role, because most of the people we serve are people that have very busy lives, struggling to survive and meet all their responsibilities. So it's that resident commissioner bringing the voice of folks we serve into the decision-making process is so important. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't just acknowledge that there's probably never been a period where the relationship between this local housing authority and the federal partner that provides the bulk of the funding has been more strained. And unfortunately, not only are there these significant headwinds, but there's an active debate about the role of the federal government in providing funding for this important cause. And let's be clear, housing authorities house the poorest people in our community. They serve people who have nothing, up to about 30% of median family income. They manage our public housing and our affordable housing targeted to the neediest in our community. We cannot do it if the federal government keeps scaling back. We can't maintain our assets. We can't continue to serve. We can't stretch the dollar on the vouchers. I hope we come to our senses on this, but unfortunately, we're going through a period of real retrenchment at HUD, and it's going to make your job harder. So I would say I'm even more appreciative that in these tough times, you're willing to step up and serve the community, because your service really matters. Thank you. Aye.
Saltzman.
Thank you both for your willingness to serve. Aye.
Udaley.
Well, thank you for your service and your continued willingness to work with us on this vital issue. Aye.
Wheeler.
Thanks to Talmarine Hetman for stepping up and being willing to do this important work. I'm always happy to see new people joining a board, particularly on an issue as important as this. And Jenny Kim, what can I say? I'm just as impressed as always and so appreciative that we have people of your caliber who are not only willing to step up and serve, but are willing to do it on a long-term basis. So thank you for that. I'm grateful. I know the city council is and the community is as well. So thanks. I vote aye. The resolution is adopted. Thank you. Next item, 100.
Amend an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County to extend the Sex Buyers Accountability and Diversion Program through December 31, 2018.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Are you going to kick us off today?
I am, just briefly.
Thanks.
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Brian Parman. I'm the commander of East Precinct, and so I'm here today with my team who's still finding their seats. Want to present an overview of our Sex Buyers Accountability and Diversion Program. At its core, the goal of this program is to use this moment of police contact as a chance to intervene, provide education, and change future behavior. This program is administered through an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County and LifeWorks Northwest, and so we'd like to provide an overview of the program, and we're seeking your approval to extend our existing IGA for an additional year. And I'm here today with Sergeant Mark Georgioff, who oversees the day-to-day operations of our sex trafficking unit, and Kristen Williams from LifeWorks Northwest.
Thank you.
Good morning, council members. As Commander Parman stated, my name is Mark Georgioff, and I am the sergeant with the Portland Police Bureau, currently assigned to the sex trafficking unit. The sex trafficking unit is a team that works to combat crimes and victimization caused by sex trafficking, both by bringing accountability to sex buyers and working with victims of the sex industry by collaborating to assist those who cannot escape this personally devastating industry on their own and often need both accountability and resources to survive and thrive in life. One of the key components in the effort to combat sex trafficking in the Portland area is the Sexual Buyers Accountability and Diversion Program, more commonly known as SBAD. I'm here today with Kristen Williams from LifeWorks Northwest, the organization that operates the New Options for Women's program and designed for women attempting to transition out of the sex industry lifestyle, and which cooperatively with PPB runs the SBAD program. Kristen and I both firmly believe the continued funding of this program agreement is essential to reduce the frequency and impact of the sex buyers have in supporting this victimization industry in the city of Portland. The SBAD program has operated successfully since 2011 and has been attended by several hundred sex buyers during that time. The purpose of this course is to reduce the demand by interrupting the frequency that buyers attempt to purchase sex. This is done by educating persons arrested for the solicitation of prostitution through a classroom setting where they learn about legal, social, and health ramifications of the commercial sex trade. The SBAD program is designed to represent a paradigm shift from solely criminal prosecution to early prevention, rehabilitation of those who solicit prostitution. The program is generally offered for first-time arrested offenders, and if completed, will suffice for any court-ordered accountability otherwise. As a sex trafficking sergeant, I am the designated program manager for the SBAD program. This program is based on an intergovernmental agreement with Multnomah County and the City of Portland. The county subsequently contracts with LifeWorks Northwest for program coordination and administration and is taught by members from LifeWorks, the PPB Sex Trafficking Unit, and other community and social service partners. as well as a very powerful presentation from a survivor of the sex trafficking industry. All fees generated by the program are shared equal proportions between LifeWorks Northwest, PPB, and the Multnomah County District Attorney's Office. The impact of the program consistently has shown over the years it has been immense in the lives of many sex buyers who have participated in the program. This is reflected in comments made by participants in the follow-up conducted at the end of each course. While not all participants feel the punishment fits the crime, a large percentage feel the class changed their views dramatically about prostitution and commercial sex solicitation and never realized the victimization it creates. Some of these reflections are as follows. This was a very informative class. It is a chance for people to actually learn from their mistakes. It is a great opportunity to think about behaviors and values. If I had access to class within my community, I do not believe that I would have made the choice that I made. This was a great experience. Another, I appreciate each speaker's tone and how they did not come across like I was garbage. The law enforcement aspect was very informative and interesting. The SARC piece made me sick to my stomach and was very powerful, and the survivor piece was heartfelt, emotional, and powerful as well. Overall, a good class. And finally, it was a very well and laid out and presented class. It changed my view of prostitution and left me with some soul searching to do. I believe this class is very beneficial. As you can see by just a small sampling of the many comments received, the impact is immeasurable. The content and context of the course is one that certainly requires sex buyers to think, reflect, evaluate, and oftentimes change their views about prostitution and the victimization it creates for so many. As the process takes place, we strongly believe it prevents buyers from becoming repeat offenders, which ultimately reduces the demand for commercial sexual solicitation, creating much less victimization of those prone to working in the sex industry. It also serves to increase the participants' risk awareness through self-responsibility and motivate changed behaviors. The partnership developed over the years between LifeWorks Northwest and PPB has grown to be an efficient and consistent source of information sharing. The frequent contact about collaborating, serving victims, discussions of changing trends in the industry, and dialogue on the best way to create an impactful SBAD program over continual basis and review is the framework for this successful program and the foundation it's founded upon. The partnership between PPB and LifeWorks is also reflected in other ways. This is illustrated in a nice note Officer Mike Gallagher of the Sex Trafficking Unit received just this past week from a long-term sex trafficking victim whose life he has had dramatic impact on, and in conjunction of services from the NOW program. I have presented to you today a copy of the note for your review and highlight a portion from this victim. Quote, "I would still be lost, lonely, and surviving day to day without the NOW program and the efforts of the police department." Unquote. This type of impact cannot be made up or replaced if the relationships are lost. These words speak for themselves and are a true testament of the importance of having programs that positively impact both victims and sex buyers. We know that if allowed to continue, the SBAD program will positively impact the lives of many more sex buyers for years to come. Okay. All right, good.
Good morning, Kristen Williams. I was still listening adamantly. Kristen Williams with LifeWorks Northwest. Good to be with you all again. And just want to highlight a couple of things. So the SBAD program, it's an 8-hour diversion class, as mentioned, and a couple of other highlights is we only offer this 6 times a year. In fiscal year 2017, we served 165 sex buyers. Already this fiscal year, we served 102. There's a wait list every class. We are full every class, and so the demand is there. So to combat the issue of sex trafficking, we need to look at the demand, and that is what this class does, and it has really evolved over the years. We have taken feedback over the years from participants and from community partners involved, and we've really adapted and made this from a punitive class. I don't know if speaking on this before, years ago, it was more of a punitive class, and now it's more of an educational collaborative experience for these sex purchasers as a diversion, really to educate as a prevention tool so they don't go out and recidivate and do this again. And I also gave you a packet of some feedback that's pretty much, I think it's all of 2017 and current 2018 feedback. Some of it isn't positive, but we review all of it. And another component of this partnership is after every diversion class, we all meet and debrief, and we talk about what went well, what could have improved, the feedback. We look at how to continually adapt and mold this program to really enrich and be an educational experience. Not only that, but another thing I wanted to just point out briefly is a few years ago I was able to help to collaborate and start the first ever National John School Conference, and we had contact with over 37 programs nationally that we were able to identify. And of that, so many of the programs are 30-minute videos, hour videos, while they're in handcuffs in the back of a police car, or while they're in custody, detained, in handcuffs, a video, or it's a class, a couple of hours taught by, maybe a police officer, or maybe a single lens. And one thing just to really celebrate again is in Portland, we have this fabulous, rich collaborative where we're able to have a survivor come in and speak at the end of the day to really bring together everything we teach. The police officers do a fabulous presentation. We have presentations from the Therapeutic Lens, a male community partner to kind of have that man-to-man kind of conversation. And we brought in Sexaholics Anonymous to reach out to any man who might identify that need. So we've really enriched this program, and having been able to get a greater national lens on that and help other programs enrich their program from what we do, I'm really proud of the work we get to do here with these sex buyers. You'll notice I won't say Johns because I like to call them what they are, sex buyers. That's my personal lens. And the other component, I think that I just wanted to also say, this really helps us to focus on the demand. If we're going to end sex trafficking, we need to focus on the demand. And so I'm really proud to be able to partner with Portland Police and be able to put on this fabulous program. We, I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but we invite you to come sit in one day if you would like. So, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Fritz.
Thank you. So I'm interested to hear you say there's a waiting list. My understanding is this program's paid for by those taking the class. Mm-hmm. So what's the limitation on adding more?
Space. So if we could probably have, 40, 50 people per class, but in that kind of discussion safe environment, that educational environment kind of is lost. And so I'm stepping back into this role a little over a month. I've been back. And so before we capped it because of actual physical space in the classroom, and now I think it's mostly because of space.
But is that because we couldn't put on more classes? Is it partly due to the officers' time and the survivors' time?
I think it's a little bit of all of that, of scheduling, and also just the financial resource it takes to put this class on every second Saturday of the month.
And we actually did. We ran an extra class this last fiscal year, 2017. We added at least one, maybe two classes to the normal rotation just because of the demand.
Well, I'm glad that we're increasing the agreement or continuing it. If there are things that we can do to help in funding or looking at city facilities for physical spaces, please let me know.
Okay, thank you.
The other question I have is about recidivism. Do we have data on whether people who have taken this training are less likely to reoffend and get rearrested?
Yeah, did you want to?
Yeah, we talked about that leading up to this presentation, and we're only aware of one person who had been through the class who has then been rearrested.
So could I second that? Because I loved your testimony, by the way. It was fantastic testimony. But the only thing that made me cringe a little bit was to say that the success of this program is immeasurable. It's absolutely measurable. And what you can do is you can screen for recidivism and compare that to the population at large. So I would hope that we would do that and make the case that this is actually a best practice that works.
Yes.
So that's sort of the first thing, is just to underscore what Commissioner Fritz already raised. The second question is really more of one around, is this something that is now nationally done, or is this something unique to our community? What do you mentioned that you go to conferences and it seems like there's more of a punitive tone in some of the other programs. Why did we choose to go in a different direction?
So I know that I previously stepped out of this role in 2016, and then I came back. So there was one conference, and it never got any clause in anything, and so probably not the best way to say that. But so I know that about a fourth of the programs that were there were just starting. They had never had a program. They were done basically solely through law enforcement or a survivor agency, and so it was a really siloed lens of how to approach this issue. So I would say that we're still really at the beginning nationally with approaching this, and I would say Portland is ahead of the game in regards to this. The diversion program, I believe we really do it the way we do so that we aren't just telling them, they're bad, but we're really getting to the why of the issue. We're educating them around the buyers and, like that how, what, why. We really focus on the why. And it's not just, them. It affects their relationships, their family, their friends, we have a lot of data around that. And it also affects, how they view the world. And we really believe that the diversion component is important, addressing all these things.
Very good. And what happens if somebody, I assume this is voluntary. Is it voluntary, first of all?
Yes and no. It's
what happens if they don't?
If you're familiar with, like,
alternative?
in the court system, there's a DUI diversion program that
Sure.
if you're a first offender, you have the opportunity to participate. Similar to that effect. If a person is, it's in general a first-time arrested offense, they're offer this opportunity for a diversion program.
Is it the judge who offers it, or the DA?
Yeah, through the court process.
Through the court process.
Their defense attorney would, negotiate this with the prosecution, and gets authorized by the judges in the court system. Say, okay, you have X number of months to complete this program, and then receive the certificate and come back to the courts and show that you were successful.
And if not this, then what's the other track? What does that look like?
They're able to have a charge.
In addition to having the charge of commercial sexual solicitation, they would also have the financial responsibility of the conviction as well.
Got it. Okay.
So, and if I may get back to the just the programs, this program originated under, it was kind of modeled, the city of San Francisco had a sexual diversion program, and very similar in its functions and form, and kind of was the example that the city of Portland followed at that time. It really hasn't expanded beyond a lot with other programs being similar, although there's a lot of interest in it. I've had quite a bit of discussions with Washington County as we've helped them in developing their sex trafficking program out there, and working with their district attorney's office, who's connected with Multnomah County's district attorney's office, in how this program is modeled, and creating a diversion program in an adjoining county for the same type of a thing. I'm very interested in that. There's several other folks who have contacted me over the last course of a few months and said, what do you guys do and how does this work? So I think it's a good model and something that the city can be proud of.
Very good. Excellent. Colleagues, any further questions? Commissioner Saltzman?
I guess I'm just curious, are the sex buyers primarily street level solicitations, or are we going after online solicitations?
Well, in today's generation, the majority of the purchasing of sex is done online, or relationship contacts developed online. There certainly is a level and element of street level prostitution. That is not what this addresses particularly, although it could, but the majority of our efforts are to combat those that are done online through dating apps and text messaging and all that. So yeah, the majority of our custodies are related to online
So that is the majority now?
Absolutely.
Okay, great, thanks.
It's a lot more secret than out on the street.
Yeah.
Very good. Is there anybody signed up for public testimony? How many people?
Yes, we have one person,
Very good.
Shedrick J. Wilkins.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you. And ladies.
Hi, I'm Shedrick Wilkins, and when I was in the Army, I was stationed in Germany, in which prostitution is legal. I understand it's legal also in Israel. I found I didn't like it. It's wrong. I do not think that prostitution should be legal in the United States. I think that in a diversion program, the people who are chiefly responsible for these are the people, what we would call the pimps or the mafia or whoever, or people setting up these online websites. They are responsible for prostitution. It's not the people who on a low level want it. It's the people that make it easy. It's the lawyers that defend people who are accused of being the sellers or sex buyers setting things up. You get these people and put them in jail and you can stop prostitution, okay? And again, I think too that time is ripe where we're really kind of saying things like, well, Harvey Weinstein's not a pimp. Well, yes, he is, and even women who benefited from his ability to get them acting jobs, whether they did get jobs or didn't, they don't like the guy. And they didn't like being forced to stand in one spot while they were harassed because they wanted the money. Enough said.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Justice Watchdog. Again, just on my position that you have this diversion program, and in my opinion, without the actual data on recidivism, it's really difficult to have an understanding really how effective it is. And in my opinion, that if we're going kind of use the term a little bit easy on the perpetrators per se, that concerns me, is that in my opinion there should be an excessive fine. That is a deterrent to people that possibly might be doing this, and I don't see that. I see a diversion plan, go off to the side, and again, from my position is that, are these names of these people made public so people in the community can see that they have been charged with this? Is that put on any type of website? I know when you arrest individuals for other crimes, it's put on a website or that people are able to see their pictures. Is there that possibility that that is happening, or are you actually on this diversion program saying that we won't even post your picture with this being charged against you? And again, just from my position, when you're talking the being real, what I call easy on the per se buyers, is that on the quote victims, that fine should be going toward the victims. Is my position, is that sends a real clear message. And if you're just allowing people with kind of a go watch a video, feel free to go out the back door, we'll make sure your picture's not posted, have a good day, I don't think that's the right way to do it. So again, I'm looking at more harsh treatment, more you're a scumbag, okay? And you know, you got caught. That's your problem right now. That's why you're here, and we're going to make it very clear to you. There's going to be extensive fines. It's not going to be comfortable for you. You're going to be posted on websites. You're going to be known in your neighborhoods. And if you don't like that, then don't do it. That's my position. I think this is too soft. It's too easy. And I really hope that's not what the whole point of this diversion plan is. Again, more harsh treatment. That's my position. Thank you.
Thank you. Colleagues, any further questions? Please call the roll.
Fritz?
Well, thanks for another excellent presentation, and thanks Sergeant Joff and Christian Williams for your write-up in the impact statement, which says that LifeWorks retains 10% or $1,400 for each session conducted, whichever is greatest, as reimbursement for administrative and direct cost, and the remainder is split between Multnomah County District Attorney, the Portland Police Bureau, and LifeWorks. So I think all of those, and the Police Bureau uses their portion to fund further missions and investigations. So it's a wonderful program. Thanks, Officer Gallagher, for being here again and for educating me last time that part of the value of this is having the buyers in the room, both with the survivors and with each other, as was brought out. This has become very much an online and anonymous thing, and by forcing people to be face-to-face with each other and with the survivors, that makes it much more real, and I appreciate that. Aye.
Fish.
Thank you for an excellent report. Aye.
Saltzman.
Thank you. Aye.
Udaley.
Thank you. Aye.
Wheeler.
I'd like to see us strengthen the measurement of the success of the program. I think you've given us very, very good anecdotal evidence, and the letter that we received, presumably, I believe you said from a young woman, is very compelling. The statements made by the folks who have participated in this program are compelling, but I'd also like to see us take the lead on measuring the success of this program and see if there really is an effective best practice here that could potentially help address this issue. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. Commissioner Fritz?
Just add something onto that. I think
sure.
also I'd like next time you have the presentation, the data on the demographics of the people who choose this program versus the people, the overall arrest rate for this charge. Thank you.
Next item, 101.
Authorize 5-year price agreements for purchase of fuel from Associated Petroleum Products not to exceed $32 million and from CECO Inc. not to exceed $500,000.
Colleagues, this fuel purchasing contract is aligned with the city's carbon reduction goals. The resulting contract will decrease the city's total energy use. Portland has been using high blends of renewable fuels in our fleet vehicles for over a decade, and this contract enables the continued and increased use of those renewable fuels going forward. City Fleet has been a national leader and early adopter of sustainability practices. For example, City Fleet won the National Green Fleet Award in 2010. There are many transportation fuel options that will bring us closer to our 100% renewable goals, such as electricity, biofuels, and renewable natural gas. In the last fiscal year, 76% of City Fleet's diesel fuel use was from renewable sources. Thanks to City Fleet, 20% of Portland's sedan fleet is already electric, and we have a goal of getting to 30% in the next 3 years. City Fleet has also been an important partner with the city's Bureau of Environmental Services to recover methane from the Columbia Boulevard wastewater treatment plant to generate renewable natural gas, RNG, as a transportation fuel for city vehicles starting next year in 2019. Put another way, as Commissioner Fish, I think, put it so well, we're turning poop into power. This new fueling contract will cover the remainder of the city's fleet that has not been converted to electric or renewable natural gas, and will allow City Fleet to continue efforts to invest in sustainability through the purchase of renewable and low-carbon fuels. We have a unique opportunity to transform the transportation sector in the region to reduce carbon emissions, enhance public health, and stimulate economic development. Portland City Fleet is leading this charge. Interim Chief Procurement Officer Larry Palat and Vehicle Maintenance Superintendent Don DePiero are here to discuss this item in further details. Gentlemen, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Good morning. Thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Mayor, I am Larry Palat, Procurement Services. Procurement Services posted the ITB for this project on October 25th, 2017. That's a little out. We'll move it. Which publicly notified the vending community, including firms certified as disadvantaged minority women and emerging small business enterprises, that the goods contract for supplying fuel for the city fleet was open for bids. 10 bids were received and opened on November 28th, 2017. All bids received were determined to be responsive to the solicitation requirements, including a composition of fuels and fuel blends that meet the city's climate action plan to minimize, to the extent possible, the city's carbon footprint. On December 5th, 2017, the city issued a notice of intent to award price agreements to Associated Petroleum Products, Inc. and CECO, Inc. No protests were received. The contracts have been negotiated in the amount of $32 million to Associated Petroleum, and $500,000 to CECO. The city's intent, as was made clear to the vendors, is to use Associated Petroleum Contract as the primary source of fuel and SECO as the backup source. The city's fleet division is in the Bureau of Internal Business Services, worked diligently to meet and address the concerns of affected bureaus and the concerns of city commissioners. The successful bidders have available for delivery the necessary range of fuels and fuel blends to meet city's requirements at the most advantageous price to the city operations. Purchasing fuel based on these contracts represents a savings of millions of dollars per year over buying fuel at standard local gas station type prices. The primary contract holder, Associated Petroleum, is located within the city limits at 9270 Northeast Gleason Street. Both vendors are in compliance with all city contracting requirements, including business tax registration and payment. If the City Council has any questions concerning the solicitation of resulting contract, I'm happy to answer those. If not, Don DePiero is here from City Fleet to answer specific questions relative to the fuel.
Colleagues? Only one. The number to me was staggering, and my staff picked me up off the floor and put me in the chair and then went through the economics of this and convinced me that this is a substantial savings over previous years. But as I look at this, given the magnitude of the number, there is an opportunity to change that number dramatically, either through small changes or incentivization programs to further reduce our overall fuel usage in the city fleet. Is there further opportunity, for example, savings sharings with bureaus, a 50-50 split, just for example? Are there other ways to get the cost of our fuel usage down further than this? And I realize what you're presenting here is a huge win over previous years in terms of reduction, but I guess the question is there a way to push even harder?
The contract itself is designed, the pricing is tied to an index, and there's a published index. So there's pricing specifically is tied to that. So as markets go up or go down, which is usually tied to spot pricing for fuel coming out of, it's not specifically tied to the price of oil coming out of OPEC countries. It's tied specifically to a gas index. So if prices go up and down, our prices will essentially go up and down. To the extent that specific bureaus can reduce their need, there could be constructed between City Fleet and the bureaus some IA internal agreement that would share savings or share differences in overall budget amounts relative.
The reason I mention this is a tough budget session we're about to be teed up for. And if we can reduce the cost and further our climate action goals at the same time, that's the kind of reduction I'd like to see in the budget. So could we think on this? Could you strategize a little bit and see if there isn't a way even to get a 2.5% reduction? That would make us a meaningful difference. So if we could just think on that.
2.5% of $32 million is a lot of money.
Yes, sir. Is there any further questions? I'll accept a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Saltzman, a second from Commissioner Daly. Please call the roll.
Fritz.
Thank you for your work. Aye.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaly.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Aye. Report's accepted. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
102.
Authorize a grant agreement with Apano Communities United Fund not to exceed $33,000 to support the Asian Pacific American Communities United Against Hate project.
Colleagues, I was absent last week on city business, and I've reviewed the record for this item. My understanding is that this item was pulled off the consent agenda last week for further discussion. The Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, Apano, provides culturally specific services and was selected as a provider of these services by the Portlanders United Against Hate, PUYA, Selection Committee, a process that was run through the Office of Neighborhood Involvement. In the fall bump, our fall budget process, the council authorized the funding. What is before us today is the grant agreement, which ensures grantees are compliant with the city's values to receiving funding. While this grant agreement is generally a standard grant agreement, there is additional language that considers the recent allegations against Apano. To be clear, the city takes these allegations regarding workplace equity and fairness incredibly seriously. That's why There's this additional language which acknowledged the audit report being performed on the organization. The city reserves the right to terminate the grant agreement if the findings in the report are found to be out of compliance with the city's values as stated in the grant agreement. Here to further discuss and answer any questions are Carrie from the Office of Neighborhood Involvement and Grant Manager Sheila Craig. You don't look like two people.
I'm not. I'm just the one.
Very good.
Sheila's here. And yeah, my name's Carrie Coe with the Office of Neighborhood Involvement and the Portland United Against Hate Grant program. And I am just here to answer any questions that you might have about this grant.
Colleagues, any questions?
So if I might just interject, I was the one that would not vote for this last week, so it's why it's here today. And this issue was unknown to me until you raised it, Mayor. I think it was during the fall bump when Apano was here receiving a major capital grant from us. And I simply believe that we, somehow, some very brave people stepped forward and brought these allegations to the light of day. And as one thing we've learned in this nation over the last 6-7 months, it takes very brave people to produce some very profound changes in the way we interact with each other and the way we treat each other. I feel that it's no longer a business as usual with respect to allegations of gender, sex, or sexual orientation discrimination. And for us to approve this grant today is the business as usual approach. Hey, we hear the allegations, we're going to investigate them, but we're going to go on funding you just like we always do. And Apano gets a lot of funds from us, as do many other organizations. And I think this council needs to set an example here that until we get this report, until we know whether these allegations have any substance to them, we should withhold our funding to Apano, to any other organization of which allegations of gender, sexual orientation, or sex discrimination are made. We need to hold people to a higher standard. That's one thing we've learned. And that's why I will be voting no on this. And I urge my colleagues to do so as well.
So you see the position we are in. So I'll give you your best shot here because it's my understanding the way the contract has been negotiated, I'll just call it the innocent until proven guilty scenario. But it puts a significant financial burden both on you and asks this council to take commensurate risk. As I understand it, what it would require you to do is in the event that the allegations are proven to be true, we would both terminate the contract and you would be obligated to pay back any funds that have currently or that have already been deployed. So I guess my question to you based on Commissioner Saltzman's, I think, very important values-based statement is this. Why should we not just wait, as Commissioner Saltzman suggests, until this is cleared up as opposed to forwarding the contract today? Give us your best case.
Great. I'm glad to hear that the council is taking this seriously. I think that we and the Office of Neighborhood Involvement takes this very seriously as well, which is why, in part, it's built into the contract, and we've been working with Apano to figure out how to move forward. So the piece of the grant that I think is important to bring to this conversation is the fact that, one, Apano has told us that they are on track to bring this report as is indicated in the contract, that they will have it to us by the end of February, which is what was requested of them. And second of all, this, as you all probably know, is a reimbursement grant. So actually funds are not automatically distributed once you approve this contract, and actually it takes a significant amount of time for the reimbursement to process through the city. So the time that we have to figure this out is substantial once we move this forward and they can start doing the work.
So why not just hold this off and pass it later on an emergency basis?
Could I answer?
Commissioner Fritz?
This is about getting money to the community in response to an identified community concern. So it says in the ordinance, Apano and ERCO co-hosted a listening session in the Jade District in April to engage with Asian and Pacific Islander community leaders on how they are responding to the new political climate. The takeaway was that immigrants are deeply concerned about their personal safety. A few Chinese restaurants had their windows broken after the white supremacist rally and the march down 82nd Avenue. Personal safety has risen to the top of Apano's list of priorities. Apano members' kids are being called Japs in the Muslim community of Oregon, many of whom identify as Asian. The number of incidents of bigotry is so high that several Muslim-owned restaurants had to shut down during the month of Ramadan because they are afraid of being targeted. So to me, it's urgent that we get this money to the community, and it's not really benefiting Apano. They're going to be supporting the community in reporting these hate crimes, and that is urgent. That is here and now life safety.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Fritz. I would agree that Apano has been active in working with Portland United Against Hate. They've been a part of the coalition. They've been bringing the issues to the forefront of how folks in the Jade District in particular are being directly impacted by this, and doing the work on the ground to help folks from that community to be a part of building their own capacity to take action and support the community's work, and then also bring that perspective to the wider community about what's really happening out there east of 82nd.
So I want to be clear. I have long supported Apano, and the issue around immigration and protection and services, that's not in dispute for me at all. I mean, my preference would be definitely to approve this contract, get the resources out into the community, and go forward. I'm just trying to figure out the logic chain here. You yourself just said we don't really need the resources right now. If we don't really need the resources right now, what's the big hurry? Give me an answer to that I can take home.
Yeah. So the logic is that we want to keep the resources moving out the door as soon as we can. So they have until the end of February to submit their report. We want to be able to offer them their grant money as soon as we are able, because they have already been approved for this grant. This is for this fiscal year. So really we are like more than halfway through the amount of time that they should have already been able to get reimbursed for their grant.
Okay, so this is for the current fiscal year and closing it out.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
So we're just running, we want to keep things moving because we want to respect the fact that they're already out there doing this work. And we have been working with them to make sure.
So I have a
funded.
question. I have a question. I'm going to pose it to our council. So this is now a non-emergency ordinance. So if we passed it today, it would not kick in for 30 days. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And it is contemplated under the contract that we're adopting that the Apano will provide a report to council within that 30-day period, correct?
I believe that's the calculation, yes.
What is the recourse? So let's say the council gets the report. I'm following the logic of Dan's argument. And the report is deemed by the council to be non-responsive or inadequate or raises other questions. What recourse does the council have at that point?
Well, the way that the ordinance is drafted, it's the authority is given to the mayor to execute the granting agreement. So if it was the sense of council that the mayor should not execute because the report came back with information that was of concern to the council, then the council could, as a sense of the council today, ask the mayor not to execute it under that scenario.
Well, and here's the other challenge. We don't actually have a clear standard of how we would evaluate this. And I don't want to go too far afield here, but I'm guessing that we regularly approve distributions of funds to entities that have pending lawsuits, HR complaints, challenges before administrative bodies and the like. And generally, we don't require all that to be disclosed. There is a process for that to be evaluated. There is a process for someone that brings a complaint against an employer, which is, I used to do this law, so there's many different ways that you can get recourse. The council has, however, said that we want to report to better understand how the agency is dealing with this matter, which, by the way, the agency has been very transparent. They've sent out communications to the council explaining the nature of the complaints and what they're doing. I might suggest this as a compromise because I don't think there's a significant disagreement here on values. So let me make this suggestion to Commissioner Saltzman and the mayor. Why don't we just make a either sense of the council or friendly amendment that says that in the next 30 days, the mayor will only sign this agreement provided the report has been furnished and has been reviewed by each council member, and the mayor is satisfied that that provision of the contract has been honored and that this money can be dispersed. It doesn't mean there might be another opportunity down the road if other information comes out. But I think what Dan is saying is don't put the cart before the horse. So by effectively delaying this by 30 days because this is non-emergency, I would be comfortable delegating to the mayor to review the report with his colleagues and make a sense about whether he should sign the agreement.
Clarifying question, Commissioner Fish, and thank you for offering up an alternative here that I think is responsive. Would it be your intention then to make an amendment but add an emergency clause to that so that the 30 days is already commencing?
I think whether we do that, Mayor, or it just slides to next week and we adopt, at any event, it's going to take 30 days because the emergency clause has been removed.
I have a few things to add, if I could, as the commissioner in charge of ONI and the program that's being impacted.
Daily.
Unfortunately, I wasn't here when this conversation really originally happened and the language was added to the ordinance around receiving the report. My support of this ordinance has no bearing on my feelings about the allegations. I strongly disagree that these funds should be held hostage and that this program should be further delayed pending this report. I have confidence that Apano is going to take the appropriate action based on the report, and it has taken an extraordinarily long time to get Portland United Against Hate officially launched. Apano is providing critical support to the program. It's really not kind of a optional. I believe they're doing data collection, and can you elaborate on what Apano will be providing us?
Yes, they are planning to be a point of contact for, which is what we're calling the data collection and tracking mechanism. And then they are planning on doing work with ERCO and other folks in the J District to do community capacity building around dealing with hate in their community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this money is for the program. It's not paying for the ED's salary. And I certainly appreciate how serious these allegations are being taken. I appreciate the conversation as a woman and as someone who has experienced sexual harassment. I feel this is really off base.
So can I just make one comment?
Commissioner Fish.
Because look, we have already voted to authorize the $33,000 grant. We are simply giving the mayor the authority to execute this agreement. But there is one, I'm just going to gently push back on one thing my colleague just said, because we do not have the actual luxury of separating out the issues, because the standard grant language that we operate in at page 5, which goes into every agreement, says, in carrying out the activities under this agreement, grantee, which in this case is Apano, shall not discriminate against any employee or applicant, and it goes on to explain the duty. That is a standard that we impose in every contract, and that is a standard that at any time can be formed the basis for the revocation of the contract. Now, we don't, so it puts me in a bit of a quandary. I have great confidence in Apano. I've already supported the grant. I would like to see the money go out the door. I support the program. We are literally talking about a 30-day timing issue. A report will be issued within 30 days, and presumably that report will say Apano has taken affirmative action. That may very well be enough for all of us to say that satisfies their requirements. The money is then distributed. What I think because this is no longer an emergency matter, all I'm suggesting is that we give the mayor the chance to review the report before he puts his signature on the agreement. And on the assumption that Apano does give us the information that we seek, we should go forward. But we have the luxury of the 30 days to do that. And that's why I think we should consider taking advantage of it.
Commissioner Fritz?
Commissioner Fish, I hate to argue with a lawyer. It seems to me that the language you just referenced on page 5 is about the employment under this grant and that they will not discriminate. I totally agree with everything Commissioner Udaley said. I think this is a very urgent issue that, as I said, is life safety for people in this community, and I would be very upset, Mayor. The report will come. I have every confidence in that. If it shows that action needs to be taken, that is a separate thing from getting the money out to the community for this purpose. And I would be upset if you did not sign the contract in 30 days.
That was my question. Thank you for highlighting that particular language, but at what point does that come into play? Are we going to look back? How far do we look back? If the charges or the accusations are unsubstantiated, then we...
Well, right, and what makes...
I wasn't here when we changed the terms of this grant, and now we're changing them again. And that's really what I'm taking issue with.
Well, and what makes this case, in my view, unique is the level of transparency from the grantee and others about what the issues are. So it's not my desire to put obstacles to putting money out the door for community-based projects. Again, that's why whether we do this formally or informally, if the mayor just acknowledges that he will review the report, and if he has any concerns based on the report, get back to us, otherwise execute the agreement. That's the insurance policy that I would need. I don't even need an amendment if the mayor is comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with Commissioner Fish's amendment as long as we get the report. I mean, there's still the possibility that somebody at some point, probably an attorney, depending on what they find in this investigation, is going to say, we need more time. Or we can't give you this report because it exposes us to a liability. I mean, we've served on this body long enough to know we hear those lines every day in this job. But I am comfortable supporting Commissioner Fish's amendment as long as it would be clear that if the report doesn't come within 30 days, the mayor will not execute within that 30-day period.
So are you seconding Commissioner Fish's motion for the amendment?
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Fritz and Saltzman, respectively.
No, Fish.
I'm sorry, Fish and Saltzman,
And may I just be clear, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
It is my goal, and I have been a longstanding supporter of Apano and their work, that the intent of this amendment is within the 30-day period that would otherwise have to elapse before the effective date of this ordinance, that you would be able to review any report furnished by Apano, and as long as you have no concerns based on that report and advice you get from council, you would proceed to sign the agreement. Which seems to me to be a very modest compromise that captures Dan's concerns without setting a precedent, but also ensures the money goes out the door within 30 days. The only question is whether Apano, which has previously made a commitment to give us a report, meets that deadline. That's their responsibility.
All right, well, let's do this. We have several options on the table. And why don't we take some public testimony? Let's let this sink in, and then let's have a conversation after the testimony.
It's public testimony on the amendment, right? Because we
It would be public testimony on the amendment. That is correct. How many people do we have signed up, Carla?
We didn't set out a sign-up sheet because this was a continued item, but I know Mary Sipe would like to testify.
Okay, we'll let Mary testify. Thank you. You can come on up.
Hi, my name's Mary
And then
Sipe.
lightning, and then the list is closed.
I really appreciate the conversation and the deliberation around this, and I think what you're trying to do, I really appreciate, because you don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If an individual person is misbehaving or treating an employee in a discriminatory manner, that's one thing. What is that? How does that reflect on the entire program and the good that this program does? And I think Commissioner Fish's proposed amendment is a really good, not just a compromise, but a way to get to what you're really trying to do here. And yet it's not holding the money hostage. It's not withholding the money. It's just saying, we've got this 30-day window. let's use that window, because nothing's going to happen with that money in the next 30 days anyhow. It's not going to be distributed. And I think this is a good deliberation because, like I say, I don't think we want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but we also don't want this swept under the rug. And I think you're doing a very good job of finding a good balance here between addressing those different issues.
Very good. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, my name is Lightning. I represent Lightning Super Justice Watchdog. I absolutely agree with Commissioner Fish on his position on this amendment. And why it's important is that this also allows Apano, again, to provide the report, the mayor to review the report. Everything looks good, everything moves forward. It has to be done like that because in the grant agreement itself, these terms are very important to follow. If something looks out of place, it has to be reviewed, it has to be adjusted, and that's what's being taken care of right here. It's not a long time frame out. They're not asking to extend this out a couple months. They're just saying get the report reviewed by the mayor. So absolutely agree with Commissioner Fish and feel that's the proper way to move forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Colleagues, any further questions before we call the roll on the amendment?
Point of order, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just because
on your very last day.
On my last
Point
day.
of order, excellent.
So to the extent that I'll be working with the council clerk on incorporating the change, I just would like to clarify that what we're doing is adding some language to the ordinance, not to the contract. And it would follow the Directive A and be inserted as a new B, so that it would authorize the mayor, and then there would be the following paragraph that would incorporate the language offered by the commissioner.
Commissioners Fish and
That's how I
Saltzman?
would draft that up if the motion passes.
Yes, and keep it very simple. The intent of this is that the mayor would have the opportunity to review the report with council prior to putting a signature on the grant agreement within the 30-day period. So there would be no delay. I do not intend this to be precedential, and it simply addresses what I think Commissioner Saltzman has raised as a timing question. And I think we should give the mayor the opportunity to review the report before we require him to affix his signature. And that's the intent.
Colleagues? Call the roll.
Fritz.
So this amendment does would, if it passes, further delay getting the money out because we wouldn't vote on the actual ordinance till next week and then it wouldn't go to effect for another 30 days. I don't believe we need to have an amendment to direct the mayor to use his good judgment. There was a process to allocate these grants, and we know the purpose of this grant is to get the aid to people in the community. And I concur with my colleague, Commissioner Udaley. I try not to speak on behalf of impacted communities, and I have not heard from anybody in the Asian American community, Pacific Islander community, that they don't want us to give this grant. We've heard that they do want us to be very mindful of the investigation and the report, but I haven't heard anybody speaking against the purpose of this grant. No.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
I have also not heard from a single community member up until today, so we have two, who is concerned about us allocating these dollars. I, again, appreciate the seriousness with which these allegations are being treated. If this grant was going towards Apano's general fund, I may be more apt to support it, but it's not. It's going toward a very specific program or service that is a vital part of a program that we need to move forward on, and I don't support it. No.
Wheeler.
Aye. The amendment is adopted. Any further conversations before I move this on? This is a first reading. It moves to second reading. Item 104, please.
103.
I'm sorry, 103.
authorize up to $250 million of new money sewer revenue bonds to finance sewer system capital improvements and authorize refunding of outstanding bonds.
This proposed ordinance authorizes issuance of sewer revenue bonds in an amount sufficient to provide up to $250 million in proceeds for costs of sewer system improvements. These bonds are expected to fund BES's capital needs over the next 12 to 18 months. The ordinance also authorized the issuance of bonds to refinance outstanding debt. I'm sorry?
It's the second reading.
Second reading, Mayor.
You're absolutely right. Call the roll.
Fritz.
Aye.
Fish.
Colleagues, we got an email yesterday from our debt manager that Moody's had just issued a credit opinion, and they have determined that the Bureau of Environmental Services rating should be elevated what they call notch from AA2 to AA1 on approximately $1.4 billion of rated debt. And they have shifted the outlook on our debt from what is called, quote, stable to, quote, positive. In the analysis, Moody's cites, among other things, prudent financial practices, capital plans driven by system integrity and addressing deferred maintenance, and a strong management team. The net effect of this is that the Bureau of Environmental Services will now rank among the top 25 rated sewer utilities in the country based on their credit rating. And as we know, the Water Bureau currently has the highest possible credit rating. The effect of this, since we're now poised to vote on the issuance of new debt, is that we will be eligible for more favorable interest rates, which means the cost of providing the services will be reduced. So I want to compliment our debt service team, all the people in our finance team who have direct interface with the Moody's and other services that rate us. I want to thank Director Jordan and his team and all the finance people, and I'm very proud that we have achieved this milestone, which is good news for our ratepayers. Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Well, congratulations, Commissioner Fish, and BES. Aye.
Wheeler.
So I was not here for the first reading. I've reviewed the record. I've been briefed by staff. I want to thank Commissioner Fish again for his exceptional leadership of this system and the staff who've worked so hard on the revenue bonds to finance these sewer system capital improvements. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. 104.
Amend subrecipient contract with Inhabit to increase by $100,000 to expand flood insurance savings program.
Colleagues, this ordinance provides an additional $100,000 for Inhabit to help reduce the costs of flood hazard insurance in Southeast Portland homeowners. The Portland Housing Bureau received a special appropriation of $50,000 in general fund resources to address needs in the community and initiated a sub-recipient contract with Clean Energy Works Incorporated, DBA Inhabit, to create a pilot flood insurance savings program. In 2017, Portland Housing Bureau piloted a flood insurance savings program to property owners in FEMA's Johnson Creek flood plan, which provided financial relief to 33 low-income homeowners, many of whom were seniors or from diverse backgrounds. This success prompted an expansion of the program to serve at least 50 more vulnerable homeowners in Southeast Portland, Lentz, and Powellhurst Gilbert neighborhoods. Portland Housing Bureau's Flood Insurance Savings Program is another example of how the City of Portland is developing innovative approaches to addressing what is really a national problem. To discuss this further, we have Housing Program Coordinator Jacob Sherman and Neighborhood Housing Program Manager Andrea Mathiasen. Come on up. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for your time this afternoon. Andrea Mathiasen, Portland Housing Bureau. So the flood insurance savings program that you have in front of you today is nested under the great work of the Lentz Stabilization Collaborative. Oregon Governor Kate Brown has designated that collaborative as an Oregon Solutions Project. It involves the commitment and passion and great work of not only the Housing Bureau, but the Bureau of Environmental Services, the Office of Management and Finance, Prosper Portland, and other community organizations and government organizations, all working to address the impacts of flooding on families and businesses in the Johnson Creek floodplain. As part of the collaborative, the Housing Bureau is really focusing on stabilizing the low-income, vulnerable homeowners in the floodplain. Lentz has historically been an affordable neighborhood, but now gentrification pressures threaten to displace the area's low-income and very diverse homeowners. As the mayor indicated previously, the flood insurance savings program was initially funded with a special appropriation allocation of general fund resources in 2016. The ordinance in front of you includes a general fund allocation provided in the fall bump. The Housing Bureau and all of our Lentz Stabilization Collaborative partners appreciate the council's support of this great work and the resources that you've committed to this project. Thank you very much. And with that, I want to turn this over to Jacob Sherman, the program manager, so that he can provide you just a few high-level highlights of the pilot program's success and the outcomes that we would anticipate with the additional resources being considered today.
Great, thank you.
Good morning, Mayor Wheeler and Commissioners. My name is Jacob Sherman. I work at the Portland Housing Bureau. Our flood insurance savings program was inspired by a very successful program that was launched in the aftermath of Superstorm Sandy in New York City. You might not have firsthand experience with flood insurance, but trust me when I say that for the average household, flood insurance is confusing, it's expensive, and it's incredibly frustrating. In addition, for low-income homeowners in particular, rising flood insurance costs threaten to destabilize these families and members of our community. So with that, our flood insurance savings program, which was co-developed with Inhabit, really does what the name suggests. Helps people save money on their flood insurance and reduce their household expenses. The pilot program was highly effective. Some program results for you. For the 33 participants in our pilot, the average premium was $1,195. After the intervention through our program, most people got the average premium down to $450 for an average savings of $745 a year. We had one client who saved an astonishing $5,800 a year in her flood insurance. We've been focused on targeting households at risk of displacement. The average area median income of the homeowners served in our pilot was 66%. 39% of the people served in our pilot were communities of color, 18% were seniors. So as we look forward to expanding this program, we're eager to be serving more community members. We're getting ready to commence outreach with this ordinance going into effect, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Colleagues?
Well, I'm just kind of curious, what are some of the things people are doing to reduce those premiums so much?
The program is kind of a three-step process, and to be brief, it involves hiring a professional land surveyor to come out and take detailed measurements of a home and then compare those to the estimated height of a 100-year flood. Inhabit then sends a home advisor through the home to determine kind of flood resiliency measures, and then both of those items are followed up with a targeted one-on-one counseling session with a flood insurance expert, and together that package results in those savings.
Great. That's great.
Any further discussion? Public testimony?
No one signed up.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Fritz.
Aye.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Very impressive results being obtained. Aye.
Wheeler.
Good work. Thank you. Aye. The ordinance is adopted.
Thank you.
Next item, 105.
Amend contract with Land Morphology, Inc. in the amount of $674,137 for additional design and construction administration services for the Leach Upper Garden Development Project.
Commissioner Fritz.
Colleagues, often when we have increases in contract amounts, that's not necessarily a good thing because it means something has gone wrong. In this case, it means that something has gone very right, and I'm happy to bring this item forward. It's a huge increase in the contract cost because of a huge increase in funding available through the Leach Upper Garden project. Leach Botanical Gardens is a treasure in Portland with a wonderful support group, the Friends of Leach Gardens. And back in December of 2016, I offered a challenge to the Friends that if they could raise a total of $1.26 million overall, then I would dedicate $4.9 million in funding from Portland Parks and Recreation's system development charge, which are impact fees developers pay, to see the project to completion. I'm very happy to announce that the Friends Group and partners have surpassed their goal, and that is why we can increase the contract. So I want Commissioner Fish to also have an opportunity to introduce this, because it was his leadership when he was in charge of parks that got Prosper Portland to start investing in Leach Botanical Gardens, and it was really his vision to see that this could be an economic driver as well as a wonderful amenity in East Portland. So Commissioner Fish.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Fritz. And let me begin by saying that your stewardship of systems development charge dollars, the fees that developers pay, and your focus on investing in East Portland is going to transform the park system for 40% of the population and a place where so many kids and families live. So I want to compliment you, and I think it will be the cornerstone of your legacy as Commissioner in charge of the Parks Bureau. As to Leach Botanical Garden, each of us who've had a chance to visit the garden and the Manor House have fallen in love with it. It is a crown jewel in East Portland. It is in my view, the most developed and most important park in East Portland, and someday it will be competing with lots of other amenities. And I am particularly pleased that the way this was structured, this is a public-private partnership. Substantial developer fees, substantial commitment by Prosper Portland, a Metro grant, and then the generosity of donors who have invested in the future of Leach. What we're really talking about is taking a local gem and turning it into a world-class attraction. And we are very proud of what David and his team are doing and grateful. So thank you, Commissioner Fritz, for your leadership.
Thank you for your partnership. Now turn it over to Ross Swanson of Portland Parks and Recreation and David Porter of Leach Botanical Gardens.
Thank you, Commissioner, Mayor, Council members. My name is Ross Swanson. I'm a Capital Project Manager for Portland Parks and Recreation. With me is David Porter, the Executive Director of Leach. They are a nonprofit partner that oversees the garden on a daily basis and all the programming that takes place at the garden. We are here to amend a professional technical expert contract, or in this case, a design and engineering contract with Land Morphology. It is in the amount of $674,000. It will provide additional design and construction administration services for the Leach Upper Garden project. Approval of this council agenda item will advance the design of the first phase project for the garden expansion. It is a project that is exciting for East Portland and for the garden. We are here as a result of 4 concentrated years of effort around design work and the capital fundraising part. David will address the success of the fundraising part in a moment, and which is important for us, our ability to move forward today. So back in 2014, Leach Garden Friends and Portland Park and Recreation entered into a master planning and capital project for the garden. It was catalyzed by an acquisition of a property just to the north of the garden, formerly called the Davis property. At that time, the project hired a nationally recognized garden team of Land Morphology and the architecture firm of Olson Kundig. They are out of Seattle, but nationally known. Their job was to master plan and create a development strategy. The goals of this contract are to connect the upper garden with the lower garden and the Manor House that we all know, create community open space for East Portland, provide a regional draw on a nationally recognized garden for East Portland. Currently, most of our nationally recognized gardens are either in the Central City or on the West Hills. Strategically balancing operations, revenue, and growth for the garden. In other words, as we expand the garden, we want to ensure that our staff, as well as David's staff, are able to program at a reasonable rate. The slide you see is the grand vision of the property completed in 2015. In addition to the physical planning efforts, a prioritization exercise was undertaken with garden staff, Parks and Rec, and we tried to determine what would be the first phase of construction. What you see here is the prioritized elements of the master plan, and they were determined by the last 3 years of work. It has been work that has advanced through further design of these elements, and it also has gone through a required Type 3 land use. In other words, we do now know what all the other bureaus are going to look from us. With the addition of improved infrastructure that runs the garden on a day-to-day basis, we have some key elements to highlight. The first one is an aerial tree lock that allows everyone access to the forest. Community open spaces, which includes a fireplace terrace and gathering green. And finally, a beautiful habitat and pollinator garden with new plantings along the forest floor. Those are some of the highlights that we feel will create an East Portland icon for us. With that, I'm going to turn it over to David Porter to explain the success of the fundraising for the project.
Thank you, Ross. Mayor, Commissioners, it's really a pleasure to be here again today to talk about a project that increasingly looks successful. As Ross mentioned, in 2014, we had a schematic design for the upper garden and about $2.15 million in funding from mostly Portland Parks and Recreation and what was then Portland Development Commission. We believed that that funding, that amount of money, was insufficient to build a botanical garden that would do justice to the expectations of the city and to the residents of East Portland. Nor did we think it sufficiently honored the legacy of Lila and John Leach, the benefactors who gave the property to Portland Parks and Recreation years ago. In December of 2016, as Commissioner Fritz mentioned, she responded to this dilemma by challenging Leach Garden Friends and our wider circle of friends to raise $1.26 million from private sources. If we succeeded, she said, she committed to match our money with $4.9 million in additional system development funds. Just before Thanksgiving 2017, a day I think I will not forget for quite some time.
Me neither.
Leach Garden Friends announced that we had exceeded our target activating the match. We actually hit $1.27 million, and there are people still sending money in, so it was very moving. Additionally, Metro Grant committed $188,000 to the project, and Prosper Portland added another $1.8 million. So the visionary challenge offered by Commissioner Fritz increased the resources available for this project 363%, for a total project of $9.9 million.
That's amazing. That's great.
So with the expanded revenue, the project is on solid financial footing to move forward with the expanded scope of work. This contract amendment moves us forward with a nationally recognized garden design team that has been involved for 3 years. The amendment will increase the design services contract to $1.2 million from the original $433,000. Utilization of the same design team, though, will provide consistency and will help expedite the construction. This contract amendment does represent a 180% increase in the consultant services. This requires council approval. Our proposal is supported by procurement services. We anticipate construction beginning next winter with plans for opening this long-awaited project in summer of 2019. This timeline is critical as Leach Garden of Friends relies heavily on the summer program for its operational revenue. And with that, thank you, and we're here for questions.
Any questions, colleagues?
So the total project budget now is $9.9 million?
$9.9 million.
That is sufficient to do the job?
It's sufficient for the phase one improvements that are scheduled that have been approved, yes.
Yes.
So that's the tree walk and all those things?
The tree walk, the habitat and pollinator garden, the aerial,
Gathering spaces.
yes, the gathering spaces.
The
Thank you.
improvement of utilities.
So everything you just showed us then
Yes.
is the phase one?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
But that kind of implies there's going to be more.
This is a project that we will be working on for some time to come. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Leach Botanical Garden.
Very good. Any public testimony on this item?
No one signed
Call
up.
the roll.
Fritz.
Well, thank you, David, and the Leach Board. You've did an absolutely amazing job of fundraising, and it's an honor to be partnering with you. Thanks, Ross and the team at Portland Parks and Recreation. Christina Nieves on my staff and Pooja Bhatt have also been involved. It's exciting to be doing something that's going to be, I think, an international draw, not just even a national or a regional draw. And it's something that East Portland richly deserves. Aye.
Absolutely.
Fish?
Yeah, just in addition to all the thanks that Amanda has just given, I want to do a shout out to the Leaches because they were very public spirited, and hopefully someday Mr. Leach's old pharmacy will be restored because it's quite an interesting building. Let's do a shout out to Charles Jordan,
Absolutely.
who saw an opportunity and convinced the council to acquire the site so we didn't lose it. and then to Commissioner Fritz, who's continuing on a legacy at Parks of supporting this and taking now Leach Botanical Garden to the next big level. It's a very proud day. Congratulations to all. Aye.
Saltzman.
Very impressive work and fundraising. Aye.
Udaley.
I'm looking forward to visiting. Aye.
Wheeler.
Well, this is really impressive. And as I was watching your PowerPoint presentation, I was leaning over to Commissioner Fritz and just saying, wow, it is a great vision. It's not a least we can do vision for an iconic space in East Portland. It is, I think Commissioner Fritz hit the nail on the head. I think it'll be a national draw. If it lives up to the current plan, I think it's going to be fantastic. What a great thing for the community. Thank you for Commissioner Fritz for pushing and pushing and pushing to make sure that this vision comes to fruition, and your entire team. And obviously, the folks, the many, many people at the garden, and the volunteers, and the people who put their blood, sweat, and tears into it over many, many years, and the Parks Bureau, and everybody else who has a role in this. Further proof that Portland can come together and do some amazing things. So thank you to all of you who provided leadership on this. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. And I'm with Commissioner Udaley. She and I are going to go out to the grand opening together. It looks like it'll be a lot of fun. We'll rent a bus. We'll rent a bus.
By the way, there's a pretty good gift shop there, too. So.
Very good. Next and last item, item 106. This is a second reading. It's already been read. It's had testimony. Please read it.
Increase contract with eBuilder, Inc. by $746,818 for additional software and license support and training for the capital project management software system.
Please call the roll.
Fritz.
Aye.
Fish.
Aye.
Saltzman.
Aye.
Udaley.
Aye.
Wheeler.
Again, I was absent for this, but I had the opportunity to review the record and be briefed by staff. Thanks, Commissioner Fish. I vote aye. The ordinance is adopted. We are adjourned until 2 p.m.